Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're doing what we do best, settling into a cozy little Minecraft night while I read you some gentle Reddit style stories to help you drift off to sleep. And here's our first story. I'm the one with the early shifts. At the time, I was working a job that needed me up before sunrise, the kind where your alarm goes off and the sky is still a deep blue, and you're the only one awake on your street. I'd been dreaming of a calm, comfortable place to come home to at night. When I first toured the apartment, it felt perfect. Clean, a little older, but cozy, with that soft hum of distant city sounds and not much else. The leasing agent even said, "It's a really quiet building. Most people keep to themselves." That line alone almost sold me. Moving in felt like the start of a peaceful chapter. I set up my bed under the window so I could crack it open at night and let the cool air drift in. I picked out some soft, low music playlists and imagined myself drifting off to sleep with nothing but the occasional car passing by. For a few days, it was exactly like that. I'd come home, make dinner, maybe put on a little background noise, and then just relax, listening to the gentle hum of the apartment settling. Then the neighbor upstairs really introduced themselves without ever saying a word. It started with music. Not angry, not aggressive, just loud, upbeat party tracks at 11 at night on a Tuesday. The kind of music that makes you imagine colored lights and plastic cups even if you can't see them. There'd be bursts of laughter that floated down through the ceiling, doors opening and closing, sometimes with that little extra slam that sends a soft thud through the walls. At first, I tried to be understanding. New place, new people. Maybe they were just having a small housewarming party or a late movie night. I put in earbuds, turned on some rain ambiance, and told myself it would pass. But it didn't really pass. It just shifted. Some nights it was music until 1 in the morning. Other nights it was a rotating cast of voices, talking and laughing in the hallway, the elevator dinging over and over as people came and went. The sounds weren't violent or scary, just endlessly persistent, like a dripping faucet in the middle of the night. Because I had those early shifts, every lost hour of sleep felt heavier than it should have. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, feeling the faint vibrations of the bass, counting down how many hours were left until my alarm. 4 hours, 3.5, 3. My brain wanted to be reasonable, but my body just wanted quiet. So I did what soft, conflict-avoiding people do first. I tried polite conversation. One evening, when I heard them in the hallway, I stepped out with my trash bag, timed it just right, and introduced myself. I smiled, made a joke about the lively night music, and gently mentioned that I had to wake up really early, so if they could keep it down after, say, 10 or 11, I'd really appreciate it. They nodded, laughed it off, said something like, "Oh yeah, totally, no worries," in that breezy tone that sounds agreeable but doesn't actually promise anything. For a couple of nights, things were a little better. The music dipped earlier. The laughter was softer. I thought, okay, maybe that's all it took. But then the weekend rolled around and the apartment turned right back into a festival zone. More late night music, more footsteps back and forth, more doors with that soft slam that echoes in your chest at midnight. I tried again, this time knocking gently one afternoon, keeping my voice calm, explaining my schedule. They smiled, said, yeah, we'll try, and changed absolutely nothing. The frustration grew, but very quietly, like a slow pressure building behind a wall. I wasn't angry enough to shout, and I didn't want drama. I just wanted sleep. And as the nights went on and the polite conversations kept getting brushed off like stray crumbs on a countertop, a different kind of idea started forming in the back of my mind, something a lot more creative than another ignored knock on their door. So the weeks started to blur together in this strange, sleepy haze. Nights that were supposed to be quiet and cozy turned into this weird routine of me lying there, staring at the dark ceiling, while the faint thump of party music and vibrations from the next apartment pulsed through the wall like a slow, annoying heartbeat. You know that feeling when your alarm goes off and it feels like you just closed your eyes? That was my life for a while. I'd finally drift off around 2 or 3 in the morning, only to be yanked back into reality by that brutal early alarm for work. I'd drag myself out of bed, shuffle into the kitchen, and stand there holding my coffee like it was a life support machine instead of a mug. The world felt foggy. Colors felt a little washed out. Even simple emails at my desk took twice as long because my brain was moving through molasses. During the day, everything looked normal from the outside. I showed up to work on time. I answered questions in meetings. I smiled when people made small talk. But inside, I was counting hours of sleep like a miser counting coins. 4 hours, 3.5, maybe 5 on a good night. I kept telling myself I just had to push through until the weekend, but even the weekends weren't sacred. The party music didn't care that I was exhausted. At the same time, I didn't want to become that neighbor. You know, the one who bangs on the wall at every little sound or sends angry messages at midnight. I kept thinking, people are allowed to live their lives, right? Apartments aren't silent, walls aren't perfect. I tried to be reasonable. I needed sleep for work, but I also didn't want to be the villain in someone else's story. Moving wasn't really an option either. I didn't have the energy to pack up my whole life, hunt for a new place, deal with deposits and applications, all while barely functioning on 3 hours of sleep a night. Just the idea of hauling boxes down the stairs made me want to lie down on the carpet and become a permanent floor decoration. So I went the polite route again. I knocked on their door one more time, earlier in the evening, when the music was already warming up but not at full blast. I reminded them gently that I had to get up early for work and that the bass was coming straight through my bedroom wall. They smiled, nodded, promised to keep it down. For about 20 minutes, they did. Then the volume crept back up, like a Minecraft slider slowly being dragged to the right, while I watched helplessly. When that didn't stick, I messaged to the landlord. I tried to keep it calm and factual. Dates, times, how often it was happening, how I'd already talked to the neighbors. I even mentioned that I understood apartments had noise. I just needed the late night party levels to stop. The reply I got back was almost copy-paste. That all sounds like normal apartment noise. We can't control residents' social lives. Reading that, half asleep at my kitchen table, felt like someone shrugging directly into my face. Normal noise. Apparently normal now included my walls humming at 1 a.m. while my heart raced with every bass drop. Nights became this quiet, personal ritual of not sleeping. I'd lie on my back, room mostly dark except for that soft, bluish glow sneaking in around the blinds from the streetlights outside. The faint light would throw these blocky, Minecraft-like shadows across the ceiling, like pixelated little mountains and caves. I'd watch them shift as cars went by, trying to pretend I was just wandering through some peaceful Minecraft world instead of counting the minutes until my alarm. On the other side of the wall, the muffled bass would roll through in waves. Not loud enough to make out lyrics, just that low thump-thump-thump that you feel more than hear. Sometimes a burst of laughter would spike above it, sharp and clear, then fade back into the general party noise. My mattress would pick up the tiniest vibrations, like a distant train passing underground. I tried white noise. I tried rain sounds, soft music, even a Minecraft ambience playlist to help me drift off to sleep, hoping the gentle cave echoes and footsteps on grass would drown out the chaos next door. It helped a little, like putting a cozy blanket over a leaky window, but the cold still crept in around the edges. This went on for weeks, maybe a couple of months. Time gets weird when you're that tired. Days folded into each other like shuffled cards. I'd sit at my desk at work, blinking too long at my screen, thinking about how all I wanted was one quiet night. Just one. The final straw came on a Sunday night. Of course it was a Sunday night. I had a huge presentation at work early Monday morning, the kind where you actually need your brain to be online and not running in safe mode. I did everything right that evening. No caffeine afternoon, screens off early, à la chaîne, lights low. Yes. I even made my room extra cozy, almost like I was setting up a little Minecraft base in real life. Fresh sheets, clean pajamas, a glass of water on the nightstand. I got into bed, closed my eyes, and let myself believe just for a moment that I might actually get a full night's sleep. And then, right on cue, the music started. Not just a little background music either. Full on party mode. Bass cranked. People shouting over each other. Someone dropped something heavy, and the impact shot straight through the wall like a creeper explosion. I lay there in the dark, staring at those familiar blocky shadows on the ceiling, listening to my chance at rest evaporate. My alarm was set for 5:30 a.m. It was already close to midnight. My chest felt tight, not from anger exactly, but from this deep, tired frustration that settled into my bones. That was the moment something quietly snapped. Not in a dramatic yelling way, but in that calm, decisive way where your brain finally says, okay, enough. I realized I couldn't keep doing this to myself. If the landlord thought this was normal, and the neighbor thought, we'll turn it down later, count it as a solution, then I was going to have to get a little more creative. So I lay there in the dark, letting the muffled bass roll under me like distant thunder, and a new kind of plan began to take shape. The kind of plan that doesn't involve shouting or breaking rules, but does eventually give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. We'll get into that in the next part, but for now, just picture me, wide awake, listening to the party through the wall, and finally deciding that this story wasn't going to end with me just being tired forever. So, there I was, lying in the dark of my apartment, listening to the bass thump through the wall like distant Minecraft cave vibrations, and something in my brain finally clicked. You know that feeling when you're so tired that ideas start to float up out of nowhere, like little bubbles in a calm pond? That's exactly what it felt like. The next morning, I dragged myself through work on autopilot. I was half awake, sipping lukewarm coffee, pretending to read emails, when I pulled up a calm Minecraft Redstone tutorial in another tab, just to have something soothing in the background. The creator had that soft, sleep-friendly voice, explaining how to make a simple automatic door. My eyes were barely tracking the screen, but one sentence cut through the fog. We're going to use a constant signal here, just a low, steady current that keeps everything stable. Low, steady, constant. It bounced around in my tired brain and collided with a half-remembered video I'd watched months ago about white noise and sleep. The host had talked about how a gentle, constant sound can actually help you drift off to sleep by masking sudden noises. At the time, I just thought, neat science, and kept scrolling. Now, with someone's party playlist still echoing in my memory, it suddenly felt like instructions. On my lunch break, instead of doom scrolling, I started quietly researching. Nothing dramatic, just me, hunched over my desk, while the Minecraft music and soft keyboard clicks in my headphones blended into a cozy little sound cocoon. I typed in things like white noise for apartment noise, sound masking sleep, and best frequencies to block bass. I found posts from other exhausted people in tiny apartments talking about how a fan or a white noise machine or even rain ambience could turn sharp, irritating sounds into something your brain could tune out. One article broke it down really simply. It said that your brain wakes up more from changes in sound than from sound itself. A quiet room with a sudden shout? Jarring. A room with a low, steady whoosh that gently blurs the edges of the world? Much easier to sleep through. That made sense to me. The problem with my neighbor's late-night music wasn't just the volume. It was the way the bass would drop out, then slam back in, like someone slamming doors in my skull. So I kept digging. I read about brown noise, pink noise, all these cozy colors of sound I'd never really thought about. No technical jargon, just simple explanations. Lower, deeper noise is better for covering rumbly bass. Higher, hissy noise is better for chatter. I checked reviews of sleep-friendly noise machines, looked at apps that could loop soft rain or ocean sounds, even found people who used recordings of Minecraft ambience as their bedtime soundtrack. The idea of falling asleep to gentle block footsteps and distant cave echoes honestly sounded kind of perfect. Little by little, a plan formed. Not revenge in the loud, dramatic sense, more like countersound. I'd create my own little bubble of low, constant sound in my apartment, something just loud enough to smooth out the edges of the party music, to turn the neighbors' chaos into a dull, distant blur. No police, no pounding on doors, just me, my own soundscape, and hopefully, finally, some actual sleep. I decided on a simple setup: a small speaker near the shared wall, pointed inward so it wouldn't bother anyone else, playing a mix of brown noise and soft, looping ambience. Think gentle rumble, like distant thunder, with the cozy hush of rain on a roof. The kind of sound that makes you want to grab your favorite blanket and sink deeper into the mattress. My goal wasn't to blast them back. It was to make their late night music less effective, like trying to shout through a waterfall. As I compared different apps and playlists, I even found one that layered rain, soft music, and a subtle Minecraft-style forest ambience together. It sounded like walking through a peaceful world at night. Torches glowing, no mobs in sight, just the quiet hum of safety. I could already imagine lying there, letting that steady sound wrap around me while the party on the other side of the wall faded into the background. Of course, I still had one big question. Would it actually work once the next party started up? Because the real test was coming sooner than I thought. So I decided that if the real test was coming, I wanted to be ready in the most gentle, cozy way possible. This wasn't going to be some dramatic showdown. It was going to be soft tech and subtle changes, like rearranging a Minecraft bedroom until it just feels right. I know revenge and sleep don't usually go together, but this was the kind of quiet planning that actually can help you drift off to sleep. First step, I ordered a little white noise speaker online. Nothing fancy, nothing with flashing lights or complicated apps. Just a small, matte device with a few buttons and a promise of rain sounds. When I clicked place order, I felt this tiny, quiet sense of hope, like placing the first block of a cozy cabin in a brand new world. While I waited for it to arrive, I kept imagining that low, steady sound washing over the apartment, smoothing out all the sharp party vibrations on the other side of the wall. Those couple of days felt oddly peaceful. I'd come home at night, look at the shared wall, and mentally plan the layout the way you might plan a Minecraft base. Bed here, bookshelf there, sound machine right along the border like a little defensive redstone line. The anticipation was almost soothing. It's funny how having a plan, even a small one, can make the noise feel less powerful. When the package finally showed up, I took my time opening it. No rushed tearing, just slow, careful peeling of tape, like opening a loot chest you already know is safe. The device was small and pleasantly solid in my hand. I set it on my nightstand for a moment just to look at it, then walked over to the shared wall and started my little setup ritual. First, I moved the nightstand so it was pressed closer to the wall, then I slid the speaker onto it, nudging it until it sat right where the worst of the music usually bled through. It felt like placing a block exactly where it completes a pattern. I plugged it in, watched the tiny indicator light glow softly, and turned the volume knob just a little, testing how loud it could get without breaking that cozy bedtime feeling. I cycled through the sound slowly. There was a bright, tinkly music option that I skipped immediately. It felt too much like the party next door. Then there was a low-frequency rumble, almost like distant thunder, and I paused there. The sound wrapped around the room in this gentle way, like standing in a Minecraft cave and hearing a far-off echo that somehow makes you feel safer instead of scared. Next came the rain. Soft, consistent. No sudden thunder cracks. Just a steady patter, like pixels falling from a calm sky. I walked around the apartment while it played, listening at the door, at the window, right up against the shared wall. I adjusted the volume a notch up, then a notch down, until it felt like the sound was filling the space without shouting for attention. Background, not spotlight. Then I added a few protective touches. I pulled my bed a few inches farther from the wall, just enough to break that direct line of vibrations from their subwoofer to my skull. I rolled up a draft stopper and tucked it snugly along the bottom of my bedroom door. Not for cold air this time, but to soften any stray hallway noise. I even swapped my thin curtain for a thicker, darker one, the fabric falling in heavy folds that felt a little like armor and a little like a hug. All of this was slow and methodical. The way I move around a Minecraft house at night, placing torches, adjusting paintings, nudging furniture until the room feels balanced. I wasn't trying to fight their party with more sound. I was building my own tiny sanctuary, block by block, decibel by decibel. Here's the little pattern interrupt that surprised even me. As I sat on the bed, listening to the rain and that low rumble, I realized I almost didn't care if the next party happened. Not because I liked the noise, but because I finally had my own system, my own quiet form of revenge that didn't involve yelling or banging on walls, just soft tech, thoughtful placement, and the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served by comfort. I lay back, watching the shadows on the thicker curtain, letting the sound machine blend with the faint hum of the apartment building. The stage was set, the room was as cozy as I could make it. And just like in Minecraft, when you finish a build and wait for the sunrise, all that was left was to see what would happen when the next loud night rolled in. And just like that, the next loud night did roll in. I remember that first experiment so clearly. I brushed my teeth, turned off the big light, and for a second, I just stood there in the dim apartment, staring at this little white box on my nightstand like it was some kind of boss battle item. I felt slightly silly, like, am I really about to fight party music with whooshing air? But I also felt this tiny spark of curiosity. So, welcome back to the channel. Grab your favorite blanket and let's dive into what happened when I finally hit that power button. The sound machine clicked on with a soft little hum, and suddenly my room filled with this steady, cozy rush of noise. Not loud, not aggressive, just a constant, gentle shh, like distant rain in a video game cave. On the other side of the wall, the bass started up right on schedule. The neighbor's music rolled through the drywall, those familiar vibrations in the bed frame, the muffled beat of yet another late-night party. But this time, instead of each thump landing, in dead silence, it landed in a sea of sound. It was strange. The music was still there, but it felt blurred, softer around the edges. The constant whoosh didn't erase it, but it wrapped around it. Instead of sharp spikes of noise, it turned into something more like background chatter at a cafe. My brain, which usually snapped awake at every lyric and laugh, started to slide off the details. I lay there watching the faint light on the curtain, listening to the Minecraft footsteps and soft ambient sounds from my speakers mixing with the white noise, and for the first time in a long time, I felt my shoulders drop. That first night wasn't perfect. I still woke up once or twice when the music peaked, when someone yelled too close to the wall, when a door slammed in the hallway. But each time, the sound machine was still there, like a low, steady river I could step back into. I'd roll over, focus on that one consistent sound instead of the chaos, and drift off again. It was like giving my brain a simple, looping Minecraft build to watch instead of a chaotic PvP match. Over the next few nights, something subtle started to happen. I'd turn on the machine before bed, feeling less ridiculous each time, almost ritualistic about it. Lights low, curtains pulled, little rush of white noise, soft game sounds in the background. The neighbor's music would kick in, but it already felt one layer further away. I was still in the same apartment, same walls, same neighbor, but my sleep slowly stopped belonging to their playlist and started belonging to me again. I noticed I was waking up less. Instead of 5 or 6 broken chunks of sleep, I'd maybe stir once, then none at all. In the mornings, I didn't feel like a zombie shuffling through my kitchen. I could actually make coffee without that buzzing, exhausted anger humming under my skin. During the day, I found myself thinking more about what I wanted to build next in Minecraft than about how much I hated the base next door. It's funny how low arousal, predictable sounds can kind of retrain your brain to relax. And then, almost as a side quest, the neighbors started to change too. It wasn't dramatic. No big confrontation, no shouting match in the hallway, just little things. One night, the music cut off a bit earlier than usual. Not midnight, more like 1:30 instead of 3. Another night, I heard the volume dip around midnight, like someone remembered there were other humans in the building. I never knocked. I never slid a passive-aggressive note under their door. I just turned on my tiny storm in a box and went to sleep. A week or two in, I was heading out to take the trash when I overheard them in the stairwell, talking to a friend. "Yeah, I keep hearing this weird whooshing at night," they said, sounding half annoyed, half puzzled. Like, I don't know, wind or a fan. It's kind of creepy. I had to bite my tongue not to laugh. Here they were, spooked by the gentlest revenge I'd ever planned. I just kept my face neutral, carried my trash bag like a normal, well-rested adult, and went back to my cozy little noise bubble. No confrontation, no drama. Just me quietly reclaiming my own space and sleep, one night at a time. And then, on a night that started out like all the others, white noise on, curtains drawn, party playlist rumbling through the wall, something happened that I absolutely did not expect. The music just stopped. Not abruptly, not like someone yanked the cord out of the wall. It was more like when the Minecraft music fades out and you suddenly realize how quiet the cave is around you. 1 second, there was that familiar thump of bass and muffled singing through the apartment wall. And the next, it softened, slid down in volume, and clicked off before midnight. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for it to start back up. It didn't. At first, I thought it was a fluke. Maybe the party just ran out of steam, or someone spilled a drink on the speaker. But then it happened again the next weekend. The same neighbor, the same group of friends laughing in the hallway, the same little tremor of vibrations under my pillow. And then, before it reached that awful vibrating in your bones volume, the music dipped, turned down, wrapped up early. I heard the familiar shuffle of people leaving, the soft click of the door, and then the building went still. It was almost anticlimactic in the best possible way. No dramatic confrontation, no screaming match in the stairwell. Just this slow, subtle shift where the parties got shorter, a little quieter, and then started happening maybe once a month instead of every single night. The tension that had been coiled in my shoulders for weeks started to loosen, like I'd finally put my Minecraft world back into peaceful mode after playing on hard without realizing it. By then, my own routine had become its own kind of ritual. Every night I'd come home, make something simple to eat, and then start building my little fortress of calm, noise machine on, fan humming, sofa cushions propped just right against the party wall. Sometimes I'd put on a long Minecraft video, slow building, soft mouse clicks, that gentle ambient music, and let it play quietly while I read a few pages of a book. Other nights, I'd turn off the screen, leave just the sound, and let the low, repetitive footsteps on grass and the distant cave echoes help me drift off to sleep. It was funny, in a quiet way. The solution everyone expects in these kinds of stories is a blow-up, right? A big argument, a landlord showdown. Maybe even some elaborate revenge where I weaponize the vibrations and turn my ceiling into a subwoofer at 6 a.m. Instead, what actually changed my life was a white noise app and a rearranged bedroom. A small, consistent change in my own environment, repeated night after night, until my nervous system finally got the memo that it was allowed to relax. I still don't know if my neighbor ever realized I was the one who slipped that polite note under his door, or if the building management quietly said something, or if he just got tired of being the weekend DJ. But I do know this: by the time the parties became rare little blips instead of constant chaos, I wasn't clenching my jaw every time the bass started. I had my own little system, my own boundaries, my own cozy noise bubble that made the apartment feel comfortable again. There's a soft kind of moral in there that I really like. Sometimes protecting your peace isn't about winning a big battle. It's about drawing tiny lines over and over in ways that are sustainable for you. A note instead of a fight, a fan instead of a shouting match, a rearranged bed instead of months of lost sleep. It doesn't have the dramatic flair of a courtroom showdown, but it does have that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. Just gently. In the end, I found myself weirdly grateful. Grateful for my little sanctuary of white noise and soft light. Grateful that I'd discovered this whole world of calm, looping Minecraft videos that made the nights feel slower and safer. And honestly, grateful that I'd learned I could change my own experience without needing anyone else's permission. Speaking of that, as you watch this cozy Minecraft build on screen right now, the slow placing of blocks, the soft footsteps, the ambient music in the background, think of it like your own little sound bubble, your own quiet boundary between you and whatever noise your day brought you. Welcome back to the channel and grab your favorite blanket, because we're going to stay right here in this peaceful world while we move into our next story. We're going to stay right here in this peaceful world while we move into our next story. But before we dive back into the drama light side of Reddit, let's just sit with that first one for a second. That was quietly satisfying in the best way. No screaming match, no big public scene, just a calm, well-planned solution that let the main character walk away with that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. I know, revenge stories and sleep don't usually go together, but that one was more like a gentle nudge from the universe than a full-on explosion. Everything unfolded slowly, almost politely. They did their research, they stayed patient, they used the rules instead of breaking them, and in the end, the problem basically folded in on itself. It's the kind of story that lets your brain go, okay, people can be reasonable, things can work out, which is exactly what you want on a quiet night like this. While you're letting that settle, I'm just going to keep wandering through this little Minecraft village. I'm placing lanterns along this path here, one by one, so the whole place glows softly when the in-game night rolls in. You can probably hear the tiny footsteps on the grass, those little gentle vibrations of movement, almost like distant white noise. Over here, I'm tucking a few flowers around this tiny cottage, just to make it feel a little more like home. The lighting is dim in-game, the music is low, and everything is moving at this slow, predictable pace. That kind of looping, repetitive motion is actually perfect to help you drift off to sleep. Your eyes and your mind know what's coming next. Another lantern, another flower, another soft footstep on the path. Nothing jumps out. Nothing demands your full attention. It's just cozy. While I add a couple more lanterns to this bridge, take a second and check in with your body. If you can, take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top for just a moment, and then let it drift out like smoke curling away into the night. As you exhale, see if you can let your shoulders drop a little. Let your jaw unclench. Let your back sink a bit deeper into the bed or the couch or whatever you're curled up on right now. If you're already feeling drowsy, that's perfect. You don't have to stay fully awake for the next story. You don't need to keep track of every detail or remember every character name. Think of these stories like background music at a late-night party you're only half listening to from your apartment down the hall. They're just here to keep you company while your brain powers down. And if you do drift off halfway through, that's kind of the goal. The Minecraft sounds, the soft narration, the slow pacing, they're all here to make things feel predictable and safe, so your mind doesn't have to keep scanning for surprises. You can let the words blur a little. Let the images on screen become more like a moving nightlight than a show you have to follow. Pattern interrupt time for your brain. Instead of thinking about tomorrow's to-do list, imagine you're the one walking this path I'm lighting up. You can feel the wooden planks under your feet, hear the faint splash of water under the bridge, see the cozy glow of this cottage with flowers around the doorway. There's no rush to get anywhere. The whole village is just waiting for you to rest. In a moment, we're going to shift into our next story. This one isn't loud or explosive either. It's more of a slow burn, full circle kind of justice. It's about a forgotten childhood promise that quietly disappears into the background for years until one day it shows up again in the most unexpected way, and someone finally has to decide whether they're going to keep their word or keep pretending it never mattered. So let's dive into that, and if you happen to fall asleep somewhere in the middle, don't worry, I'll keep the lanterns on in this little village for you. Some things we thought we outgrew are quietly waiting for us to come back, and this next story is about one of those quiet little promises that just refused to fall apart. While I keep stacking these cozy Minecraft planks and listening to the soft in-game music, let's dive into a gentler corner of Reddit, away from revenge and noise complaints, and into the kind of memory that sneaks up on you years later. This one isn't about the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served against some awful boss or landlord. It's about a tree, a few kids with big plans, and the strange way time can loop back on itself when you least expect it. I know. Revenge stories for bedtime usually steal the spotlight on this channel, but every now and then you need a story that just feels like lying on the grass at the end of a long summer day. So, welcome back to the channel, and if you're just settling in, grab your favorite blanket, get comfortable in your bed or on your couch or in that one apartment corner that somehow has the best vibrations from the fan, and let this one help you drift off to sleep. In the background, I'm just wandering through this little Minecraft forest, placing lanterns and wooden slabs, almost like I'm rebuilding what I left behind. On Reddit, the original poster starts simple. They moved away as a kid. No big dramatic exit, no movie-style goodbye party. Just boxes, a tired mom, a dad who kept checking the time, and a car that smelled like fast food and cardboard. They were 11 when they left their hometown, old enough to know what "we'll visit all the time" really meant, and young enough to still pretend it might be true. When the car pulled out of that quiet street for the last time, they left behind a tiny circle of friends and one very important, very unfinished project, a treehouse. They describe it in that soft, half-embarrassed way you talk about childhood plans that never quite made it off the ground. It wasn't some Pinterest-perfect cabin in the sky. It was a big old tree at the edge of a friend's backyard with a couple of uneven wooden planks nailed into the trunk, one crooked ladder, and a floor that covered maybe a third of the branches. The walls were lines drawn in the air with their hands. The windows were promises. "We're going to have sleepovers up here," one friend said. "We'll bring a radio and snacks and stay up all night." Another swore they'd add a rope swing, maybe even a pulley system for snacks, because what's the point of a treehouse if you still have to climb down for chips? Summer after summer, they added a board here, a nail there, and a lot of talking in between. They planned secret meetings, imaginary spy missions, and an epic no adults allowed clubhouse rule that never actually got tested because the project was always half done. Then the move happened, one last afternoon under that tree, everyone promising they'd finish it next time and keep it just the way it was. You know how that usually goes. Years went by. The OP grew up, moved from apartment to apartment, traded scraped knees for sore backs from office chairs and late night emails. Life got louder, more crowded, but also weirdly emptier. No more long, lazy nights under the stars, just the glow of a laptop and whatever background music was playing while they tried to fall asleep. By the time they finally had a reason to go back to their hometown, a family thing that wasn't exactly fun, they weren't expecting much. Just a quick visit, some awkward small talk, and maybe a drive past the old street for nostalgia's sake. They described that drive back into town like walking into an old Minecraft world you haven't loaded in years. Familiar, but off somehow. The houses looked smaller. The streets felt narrower. The sky over the neighborhood seemed lower than they remembered. They were older now, tired in that deep, behind the eyes way that doesn't go away with one good night of sleep. As they turned onto their old road, they had low expectations and a heavy mind. convinced that everything they remembered would either be gone or worse, changed beyond recognition. And that's when they saw the tree at the end of the block, still standing, and realized something about it was wrong in the best possible way. Seeing that tree still there was like loading into an old Minecraft save and realizing the starter hut you built on day one somehow survived 100 creeper blasts. It shouldn't have meant that much, but in that moment, it did. The rest of the street looked like someone had quietly swapped texture packs while OP was gone. The road itself felt narrower. The hill they used to race their bikes down, convinced it was basically a mountain, was now just a slope. A couple of the old houses had fresh paint and modern windows, like they'd been upgraded while OP was AFK. The corner store that used to sell off-brand soda and weird penny candy was gone, replaced by a sleek little cafe with soft music drifting out and people tapping on laptops. It was familiar but smaller, cozier in a strange museum exhibit kind of way. As they drove slowly, OP had that odd double vision you sometimes get when you walk through a childhood place as an adult. Part of their brain was seeing cracked sidewalks and new fences. Another part was seeing chalk drawings, sprinkler arcs, and kids yelling about who got to be it next. It was exactly like logging back into an old Minecraft world and realizing the house you thought was massive is actually a lopsided box with torches everywhere. But the moment you hear the soft, ambient vibrations of the game, your shoulders drop anyway. They parked near their old house and just sat for a second, letting the quiet of the neighborhood settle around them. No party noise, no upstairs neighbor dropping weights on the floor, no apartment hallway echoes. Just a dog barking a few houses down and the distant hum of a lawnmower. The kind of soundscape that could help you drift off to sleep if you let it. OP finally stepped out and walked toward the front yard. The house had new siding and a different front door, but the air had that same mix of cut grass and sun-warmed asphalt. The big maple in the yard was taller now, its branches reaching over the roof like it had decided to keep watch while they were gone. The old wooden fence along the side had been replaced with a clean modern one, but the path of packed dirt where kids used to cut through was still faintly there, like a ghost trail. They ran their hand along the new fence, half expecting splinters that never came, and felt this weird mix of comfort and distance. It was their old world, but someone had clearly been playing on it while they were offline, making little edits and upgrades. Kind of like coming back to a shared server and realizing your friends have added farms, lanterns, and a cozy library to the base you remember as just a box with a bed. Their eyes drifted automatically to the back corner of the yard, where the treehouse used to be. Or more accurately, where the idea of the treehouse used to be. Calling it a treehouse had always been generous. It was more like a determined collection of half-level planks and crooked nails. Still, that spot was legendary in Kid Logic terms. The branches there looked thicker now, strong in a way they hadn't been back then. OP caught themselves smiling at the thought of that old, slightly cursed construction project. Part of their brain joked, imagine if it was still there, creaking away, waiting for you like some kind of wooden time capsule. Another quieter part wondered, with an almost childlike curiosity, whether anything at all remained. A nail, a board, a scar in the bark. As they stood there, the wind moved through the leaves with a soft hush, like the kind of white noise you hear under calm Minecraft music. OP realized they'd been holding their breath. They let it out slowly and felt that familiar bedtime story calm wash over them. This wasn't revenge. There was no warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served here, just the gentle, strange justice of time doing what it does. Almost without deciding to, OP found their feet turning toward the side gate. Their hand lifted the latch like it had 1,000 times before, muscle memory guiding them more than intention. With that same absent-minded focus you get when you say, let's dive into one more cave before logging off. They slipped into the side yard and started walking toward the back, ready to see what was left of that childhood treehouse dream. The grass along the side of the house had that slightly damp, end-of-day feel, and OP could hear their own footsteps more than see them. The neighborhood was quiet in that sleepy, after dinner way. No loud music, no party next door, just distant traffic and a dog barking a few streets over. It was the kind of calm that would normally help you drift off to sleep, but their brain was humming like Minecraft cave ambience. They rounded the corner, already picturing a sad little pile of warped boards under the old oak. Maybe a few rusty nails, maybe the ghost of a ladder. Instead, they stopped so fast the grass brushed their shoes. The tree wasn't holding a graveyard of childhood plans. It was holding a treehouse, a real one. Small, sturdy, tucked into the branches like it had grown there on purpose. For a second, OP honestly thought they'd walked into the wrong backyard. The boards were newer than they had any right to be, a warm honey color instead of that gray, splintery look they remembered. You know that faint, clean smell freshish wood has, especially after a light rain? It was there, mixing with the cool night air. A simple rope ladder hung down, swaying just a little with the same lazy rhythm as a wind chime that tinkled softly from one of the lower branches. It was weirdly cozy, the kind of scene you'd build in Minecraft when you're tired of strip mining and just want a comfortable little base in the trees. No technical jargon, no big redstone contraptions, just planks, lanterns, and leaves. OP reached out and touched the rope ladder. It didn't crumble. It didn't even creak much. It felt solid, like someone had checked it more than once. Their heart did that strange, heavy but light thing. Not panic. Not exactly nostalgia either. More like walking into your old apartment and finding your favorite blanket still folded on the couch. They put a foot on the first rung, then the next, climbing slowly. Each step had a soft give to it, gentle vibrations traveling up the rope, the wood tapping quietly against the trunk. The wind chime kept that tiny, steady music going, almost like background white noise. When they pulled themselves up through the hatch, the first thing they noticed was the floor. It was swept. Not perfectly, but enough that there weren't leaves piled in the corners. No bird mess, no random trash blown in by the wind. Someone had been taking care of this place. There was a cushion in one corner, the kind that looks like it used to live on a porch chair. The fabric was a little faded from the sun, but not destroyed. Beside it sat a small lantern, battery-powered, with a faint scratch on the side where someone had clearly dropped it once and kept using it anyway. OP crouched down, fingertips brushing along the wooden wall. There were the old clumsy carvings from years ago. Crooked initials, a lopsided heart. A very bad attempt at a creeper face from their Minecraft-obsessed phase. But there were newer marks too. Cleaner cuts, straighter lines. Someone had reinforced the corners, added crossbeams, even sanded down the worst splinters. It was like their childhood blueprint had been quietly upgraded over time. In the far corner, half hidden by the cushion, was a little notebook. The cheap spiral kind, edges curled, a pen tucked through the wire. OP picked it up, thumb brushing sawdust off the cover. Inside were dates, scattered over years, short entries. Fixed the ladder, brought new batteries. Painted the trim today, still needs one more coat. No names, just this steady record of care, like patch notes for a tiny wooden world. That's when it clicked. One of their old friends had talked, back then, about coming back, even if everyone else got busy. About how a promise was a kind of quiet revenge against growing up too fast. OP could almost hear their voice now, echoing between the planks and branches. Someone had actually done it. They'd kept coming back, finishing, and maintaining the treehouse as a wordless, stubborn promise. On the inside wall, near the hatch, OP spotted something new carved into the wood, the lines still sharp and pale. It was their old plan turned into a sentence. Still waiting to finish the treehouse meeting agenda, snacks, secrets, and escape plans. Underneath, in smaller letters, another line had been added more recently. If you finally made it back, you know where to find me. There was no address, no name. Just that sentence, sitting there in the dim light as OP realized the story of this treehouse wasn't actually finished yet, and that somewhere not as far away as they'd thought, someone might be waiting for them to log back in. So there I was, standing in this quiet, creaky room above the world, staring at that little message like it was a quest marker in a Minecraft village I'd forgotten I ever built. It didn't say their name, but it didn't need to. In my head, it might as well have been written in big, glowing letters, "My old friend." On the walk back down, my brain did that thing where it replays 100 tiny memories at once. Sleepovers, late night music humming through cheap speakers, us whispering about how our future apartments were totally going to have secret rooms. By the time I got to my car, my hands were shaking just enough that unlocking my phone felt like trying to click on a tiny Minecraft hitbox while your mouse sensitivity is all wrong. I didn't have their number anymore, but the internet is basically a giant, chaotic save file. I searched their name, found a profile. Same eyes, just older. A few posts about work, some cozy pictures of coffee and rainy days. One shot that looked suspiciously like the path up to the treehouse in autumn. I stared at the message box for a long minute, listening to the quiet night around me like I was waiting for in-game ambient music to kick in. Finally, I typed, "Hey, I think I found our treehouse today." I added a blurry photo of the inside, the desk, the lantern. I hit send and immediately wanted to unsend it, but of course, that's not how real life works. So I drove home, the road lights passing by like slow, soft chunks loading in the dark. They replied before I even got to my apartment. "You finally made it back." Then a second message. "Want to meet there tomorrow? Same time as the old days?" I actually laughed out loud at that because our same time back then was whenever our homework was sort of done and the streetlights were just starting to glow. Next evening, I went back up the path. The air felt different, like those early Minecraft mornings when the fog hasn't quite lifted and everything's muted and calm. When I reached the top, they were already there, sitting on the floor by the window, legs crossed, back against the wall. For a second, it was like my brain glitched. Their face was older, sure, but the way they looked up and grinned, that was exactly the same. The first few minutes were soft and awkward. We did that polite, slightly formal dance you do with people who used to know everything about you. "How have you been? Where are you living now? Wow, you cut your hair." Our voices sounded too loud in the small space, like we were afraid of stepping on some invisible memory. But then one of us mentioned the time we tried to sleep up here during a storm and convinced ourselves the creaking was ghosts, and the other one immediately added the part about the flashlight dying at the worst possible moment. We both started laughing, and just like that, the stiffness cracked. The room felt comfortable again, like slipping into an old hoodie you forgot you still owned. They told me their side of the story, slowly, like we were mining through layers of stone together. After I moved away, they came up here a lot. At first because they were waiting for me to magically reappear, then because life got loud. Parents arguing, noise from the neighbor's late night party, the usual chaos. And this little wooden box in the trees was not just the only place that felt quiet. They said finishing the treehouse wasn't some grand project. It was just them one summer bringing up leftover paint, old notebooks, that lantern. It felt like if I finished it, I was keeping a promise for both of us, they said. Like our kid selves started this world and I didn't want it to just despawn. We ran our fingers along the desk, over the carved initials, over the newer, smoother edges they'd sanded. Every detail was a tiny patch note in our shared history. No drama, no big confrontation. Just two people gently reconnecting the wires that had gotten unplugged over the years. At one point, the conversation just paused. Not in a bad way. We both drifted toward the window, sitting side by side, shoulders almost touching. Outside, the leaves were moving in the breeze, that soft, papery rustle that sounds exactly like walking through a Minecraft forest biome with your volume turned low. The sun was sliding down, turning everything gold. For a while, We didn't talk at all. You know those moments in a cozy Minecraft world where you're just watching the in-game sunset, listening to the ambient sounds and soft music, and you realize your breathing has slowed down without you even trying? Sitting there felt like that. No revenge, no villains, just the quiet, warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served to the part of me that always wondered if I'd abandoned something important. We eventually started talking again about little things: work, sleep schedules, how weird it is to feel grown up and 12 years old at the same time. But underneath all of that, there was this steady sense that something small and forgotten had been gently picked up, dusted off, and handed back to me. When I finally stood up to leave, the sky had gone that deep, cozy blue that makes you want to grab your favorite blanket and curl up. I felt lighter, not in a dramatic movie ending way, more like when you clear out one cluttered chest in your base, and suddenly there's room to breathe again. As I climbed down the ladder and my feet hit solid ground, I realized this strange little room above the world had just helped me reconnect, not only with an old friend, but with a version of myself who believed you could always come back and finish what you started. Walking back down the path, with the last light fading through the branches, I knew I'd sleep differently that night. Not because anything huge had changed, but because some quiet background process in my mind had finally completed. And somewhere up there in that hidden room, the lantern would still be glowing softly, like a tiny pixelated beacon, waiting for the next time I decided to log back in and just be. And that's kind of the funny thing, isn't it? Sometimes the smallest, almost silly promises we make as kids end up feeling more solid than the big, serious ones adults talk about. We'll always be friends. We'll finish this treehouse. At the time, it's just two kids with sticky hands and wild plans, but years later, that memory can sit in your mind like a little anchor, keeping you steady when the rest of life feels like it's vibrating out of control. I know, revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but there's something about these cozy, low drama stories that balances out the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. It's like emotional contrast. You hear about someone finally standing up to the loud neighbor or the pushy landlord, and then you remember that somewhere in your own past there were quiet wins too. A promise kept, a project finished, a tiny victory that no one else even noticed, but you did. That finished treehouse in the story almost feels like a real life Minecraft base to me. You know how it starts with this awkward little dirt hut or a boxy apartment carved into the side of a hill, and you tell yourself, this is temporary, I'll fix it later. And then bit by bit, you add a window. You swap the floor for spruce. You put a lantern in the corner, maybe some music discs in a chest. One night, you're too tired to build anything huge, so you just move a staircase or plant a tree. But over time, that nothing special starter base quietly turns into the place you always come back to. In the same way, that childhood promise to finish the treehouse wasn't just about wood and nails. It was like placing the first block in a build you don't even have the blueprint for yet. Every time they came back, every weekend they chose the treehouse over some other party or distraction. They were adding another layer, another fence post of trust, another plank of you can rely on me. And years later, when life got noisy and complicated, that memory was still there, like a safe little world they could mentally log back into. You might have something like that too. Maybe it's an actual place, a grandparent's house, an old bedroom, a park bench where you used to sit and listen to music at night. Or maybe it's not physical at all, just a feeling, a scene your brain replays when you're trying to fall asleep. The way the light came through the curtains in your first apartment. The sound of rain on a car roof while you waited for someone you loved. Your own internal treehouse, built out of moments instead of wood. If you feel a little nostalgic hearing this, that's completely okay. Those soft, heavy feelings can actually help you drift off to sleep. Low arousal, predictable stories like this give your brain permission to stop scanning for danger and just wander. It's the opposite of doom scrolling. Instead of your thoughts sprinting from problem to problem, they start walking slowly down a familiar path, past old memories that don't demand anything from you except a quiet, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Pattern interrupt here. If your brain just tried to jump ahead to tomorrow's to-do list, gently catch it and bring it back. Back to the lantern in that hidden room. Back to the sound of footsteps on wooden planks. Back to this cozy little Minecraft world on your screen. Speaking of, welcome back to the channel if you're a regular, and if you're new, grab your favorite blanket and get comfortable. While you listen to the rest of these stories, I'm going to start working on a tree house or maybe a lookout tower right here in this world as a tiny nod to what we just heard. Nothing too dramatic, just slow, simple building. Placing logs, adding trapdoors, listening to the soft ambient vibrations of the game. Block by block, we'll make a little safe spot in the sky, a place we can keep returning to throughout the night, while we dive into more stories and let the edges of the day blur and soften until sleep finally sneaks up on you. While we're floating up here in our little sky-safe base, I want to shift the mood just a bit. We've had our fair share of the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served tonight. But sometimes the most comforting stories aren't about revenge at all. Sometimes they're about the world quietly bending the rules in your favor, just when you're too tired to fight the system. So, welcome back to the channel if you're listening to this on another night, or if you've just rolled over and decided to stay with me a little longer. Go ahead and grab your favorite blanket, let the soft Minecraft music and those gentle in-game vibrations hum in the background, and let's dive into something low stakes and cozy. This one is more like a bedtime story you might tell yourself in a quiet apartment after a long day. Just to remember that not everything out there is sharp edges and late fees. The moral of this one is simple. Sometimes the world quietly bends the rules in your favor when you need it most. No dramatic confrontations, no fireworks, just a tiny human moment that lands exactly where it needs to. It's the kind of story that doesn't spike your heart rate. It just helps you drift off to sleep with the sense that maybe, just maybe, things can work out without a fight. The Reddit post is called something like "The Library Card That Never Expired," and the premise is wonderfully ordinary. OP hadn't set foot in their public library for years. Life got busy, jobs changed, there were moves, bills, and all the usual grown-up noise. When they finally decided to go back, they were fully expecting the worst. Fines stacked up like bad decisions, forms to fill out, some stern lecture about responsibility from behind the desk. And honestly, that tracks, right? We're trained to assume bureaucracy is waiting to pounce the second we misplace a card or miss a deadline. OP talks about being between jobs, that weird limbo where every dollar feels loud and every official interaction feels like it could go sideways. They weren't looking for drama. They just wanted a quiet place to exist for a while. Somewhere with free Wi-Fi, a chair that didn't feel like a waiting room, and the soft reassurance of shelves that don't ask anything from you. So, picture this with me while the Minecraft character just slowly walks through a forest biome. OP pushes open the heavy glass door of the library they used to visit as a kid. The air inside is cooler, stiller, like stepping out of a noisy party and into a calm hallway. There's that immediately recognizable smell of books, paper and dust, and a little bit of old carpet, mixed with the faintest hint of someone's floral hand soap. They notice the hush first. Not silence exactly, but a soft, respectful murmur. Pages turning with that gentle, papery swish. The occasional quiet cough. The muted clack of keyboards from the computer area, steady and rhythmic. Almost like a metronome keeping time for the whole building. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, but it's not harsh. It's just enough to make everything feel clear and safe. OP walks past the children's section where bright covers peek out like little parties on the shelves, and they feel this wave of nostalgia. They remember summer reading programs and stickers and the thrill of walking out with a stack of stories taller than their forearm. Now, though, they're here alone, carrying a different kind of weight, rent, job applications, that low-level anxiety buzz that never really shuts off. And in their hand is this ancient, flimsy library card. The edges are frayed, the laminate is peeling, and the photo on the back, if there even is one, is from an entirely different life. OP can practically hear a mental calculator whirring. Years gone, possible fines, replacement fees. They imagine a complicated conversation, maybe even having to prove their address again, digging through emails on their phone under those bright lights. As they approach the front desk, the sounds of the library seem to fade into the background. It's just the soft footsteps on the worn carpet, the distant click of a mouse, and their own heartbeat. They set the old card down on the counter with a tiny, nervous tap, already bracing for policy talk and paperwork. The librarian looks up, smiles, and reaches for the card, and that's where this one really starts to get interesting. The card makes that little plastic on-counter sound, and in my head, it might as well be a gavel. The librarian pulls it toward her, still smiling, but when she scans it, her eyes flick to the screen, and her forehead creases just a bit. Not a full frown, just that tiny, thoughtful line that says, and instantly, OP's heartbeat decides this is a full emergency. You know that feeling when nothing bad has actually happened yet, but your brain sprints ahead anyway? That's OP in this moment. While the Minecraft music in the background is doing its best to help you drift off to sleep, OP's inner monologue is doing parkour. They're imagining huge overdue fees popping up on the screen, like some kind of financial jump scare. They picture being told they owe hundreds of dollars for a book they barely remember checking out in high school, plus processing fees, plus maybe a blood sample. The librarian leans a little closer to the monitor, scrolling slowly. OP is already mentally filling out forms. Long, complicated forms with tiny boxes that never quite fit your handwriting. They picture having to explain why they disappeared for years, why the card looks like it survived a wild apartment party, why they let life get so loud that the library just fell off the map. In their head, this is turning into a whole official meeting with policy printouts and maybe even a quiet scolding. There's also that deeper, softer fear humming underneath, like low vibrations in the floor. What if the system just says expired, not valid, access denied? What if the librarian, as kind as she looks, has to say, sorry, you can't use the library until you clear all this up? OP imagines walking back out into the bright afternoon, past the cozy chairs and the shelves and the calm, like they'd tried to step into a safe little world and been gently pushed back out. The librarian taps one last key. The pause stretches. Somewhere in our Minecraft world, we're just placing a lantern on a cozy little cottage porch, but in OP's chest, it feels like a boss fight countdown. Then the librarian's expression softens. The crease in her forehead disappears. She looks up, and instead of the lecture OP's been rehearsing for, she just smiles. Oh, she says, in this light, almost amused tone. You're all good. We actually wiped all old fines during the renovation. She says it like she's telling them the weather's nice. Like it's the most normal thing in the world, that years of quiet guilt just don't exist anymore. No revenge, no punishment, no dramatic reveal. Just a system reset. OP blinks. All of them? They ask, voice barely above a whisper. The librarian nods, already clicking through a few simple screens. Yup, clean slate. I'll just reactivate your card. Takes about 10 seconds. No stack of papers, no stern policy talk. Just a few soft keyboard clicks. The same way I'm gently placing blocks as we build this calm little Minecraft village together. While she works, she glances at the card again. If you're looking for something cozy to get back into reading, she adds, we just updated the mystery section. Or if you like quieter stuff, we've got a new armchair by the window that's perfect in the late afternoon light. She says it like an invitation, not a sales pitch. Like she's pointing out the comfiest spot in her friend's living room. And that's when the relief really hits OP. It's not just about the money, though. That's a huge weight sliding off their shoulders. It's the feeling of being quietly welcomed, of realizing this place they were half afraid to approach is actually designed to be gentle, safe. predictable in the best way. A real-world version of a peaceful Minecraft base where nothing is trying to hurt you, and the worst thing that happens is you misplace a stack of wood. Their breathing slows. The sounds of the library, soft footsteps, distant printers, the faint rustle of pages start to blend into something almost like white noise. The librarian hands the card back, newly active, and says, "Welcome back." Not welcome back to the channel, but it hits with the same cozy energy. Like the building itself is glad they showed up. OP tucks the card into their wallet, feeling that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, but in the gentlest, most human way possible. No dramatic showdown, just a quiet mercy they didn't know they needed. And as they turn toward the stacks, thinking about that window seat and those calm afternoon shadows, they have no idea that the real surprise of this visit is still waiting for them, just a few shelves away. Story 3, a quiet sanctuary between the shelves. So that little window seat moment turns into something bigger without OP even planning it. What starts as a one-time escape from their noisy apartment and all those late-night party vibrations quietly becomes a routine. The kind of cozy, predictable loop your brain can relax into, almost like watching the same calm Minecraft base tour over and over to help you drift off to sleep. After that day, OP starts going back to the library. Not every single afternoon, not in some dramatic movie montage way, but often enough that the building itself starts to feel familiar. They learn the rhythm of the place, the way the automatic doors sigh open with a soft whoosh, the faint hum of the air conditioning that you only really notice when you stop moving and let yourself be still, the gentle, almost musical beeps from the checkout desk, spaced out like slow, sleepy notes. They find a favorite chair without even trying. It's tucked between two tall shelves in the back corner, with just enough view of a window that they can see the light change across the day, but not so exposed that they feel watched. The cushion has that slightly worn, perfectly broken-in feel, like a couch at a grandparent's house where everyone has napped at least once. When they sit down and lean back, there's this subtle creak of wood and fabric that becomes part of the soundtrack of their new routine. Each visit, OP grabs a small stack of comforting books. Nothing too intense. Old fantasy paperbacks with yellowed pages, cozy mysteries where the worst thing that happens is someone's feelings getting hurt and then gently repaired. Maybe a book of nature essays that describes forests and rain in the kind of detail that makes your eyelids heavy. They don't rush, they just slowly work their way through, chapter by chapter, like mining one block at a time in peaceful mode. Around them, the library has its own quiet life. Somewhere a printer coughs once and then settles down. A kid whispers a little too loudly and is gently shushed, and then the sound fades back into that soft, carpeted silence. Every so often, OP hears the faint, rhythmic rustle of someone shelving books. Thump of a cart, soft slide of a spine finding its place. The tiny tap as it meets the next one. It's like low, analog white noise, the kind that makes your brain say, nothing dangerous is happening. You can rest. The librarian becomes a familiar NPC in this real-life safe zone. She doesn't hover or pry. Sometimes, as OP is checking out their little stack, she'll glance at the titles and offer a small, knowing smile. If you like that one, the sequel is on the next shelf over, she might say, voice as quiet and even as soft background music. Another day, she slips a recommendation onto the counter with a sticky note that just says, "Thought you might enjoy this. No pressure, no speeches. If OP takes it, great. If not, it just goes back onto the cart." Over time, OP realizes the library has become their real-world equivalent of a safe Minecraft base. It's quiet, predictable. The layout doesn't suddenly change on them. Nobody bursts in with loud music or surprise drama. The rules are simple and comforting. Whisper, walk, return your books. Just like lighting up your base so no mobs spawn, the library's routines keep the chaos of the outside world at bay. They notice little rituals forming. always walking past the same display table, always pausing for a second near the window to check the weather without really seeing it, always feeling their shoulders drop a few centimeters as soon as they pass the front desk. It's like their body has learned that this building means you're safe now. You can put your armor away. One afternoon, as they settle into that favorite chair with yet another stack, OP has this quiet thought. No big epiphany, just a gentle realization that drifts in as easily as the air conditioning hum. Sometimes the kindest things in life are the ones that feel almost invisible. A building that's always open when you need it. A librarian who remembers your face but never demands your story. No dramatic rescue, no heroic speeches, just doors that keep opening, lights that stay soft, and a chair that's always waiting exactly where you left it. And as they turn a page and let the words blur a little at the edges, they start to wonder what it might feel like to carry a bit of that quiet sanctuary back into the rest of their life, the same way you carry the calm of a well-lit Minecraft base with you even when you have to venture out into the dark. Mid-video reset. Building a library in Minecraft. And speaking of carrying that calm with you, I'm going to do a little pattern reset here in the world. Nothing dramatic, nothing stressful, just a soft shift. Right over here by the village path, I want to build us a tiny library, a little reading nook inspired by that story. Kind of like taking that real life sanctuary and giving it a blocky, cozy twin. So, welcome back to the channel if you've drifted a little in and out. That's totally fine. While you grab your favorite blanket or just adjust your pillow, I'm going to clear out this small corner next to the house that overlooks the river. I like this spot because at night in Minecraft, the water has this gentle shimmer and the ambient music and distant cave vibrations almost feel like the low hum of an apartment building after a long party has finally ended. Let's dive into the build. I'm going to start by laying down some dark oak for the floor, just to make it feel grounded and warm. Then along this wall, I'll stack bookshelves all the way up to the ceiling. I always imagined each of these little colorful blocks as a different story, a different quiet revenge, a different lesson someone had to learn the hard way. It's like a visual reminder of all the stories we've already gone through tonight, and all the ones still waiting. In this corner, I'll tuck in a couple of chairs made from stairs and signs with a soft little carpet underneath. Nothing fancy, just somewhere your Minecraft self could sit and let the night pass by without needing to do anything productive. I'm hanging lanterns from the beams too, so the light is low and golden instead of bright and harsh. Think of it like the digital version of turning off the big overhead light and just using a bedside lamp. On this side, I'll build a tiny fireplace. I'll use campfires and trapdoors so we get that gentle crackle without setting the whole place on fire. The sound is so subtle in-game, but it pairs nicely with the soft music and the kind of sleepy pacing we've got going. If it starts to rain outside in this world, that's even better. Rain plus fire plus bookshelves is basically a recipe to help you drift off to sleep. I want you to imagine yourself sitting right here in this Minecraft library. You're in that chair, tucked between the shelves, listening to the rain patter softly against the windows and the fire crackling just a few blocks away. Outside, the village is quiet. No loud music, no chaotic party next door, no neighbors stomping around their apartment. Just the low, comfortable vibrations of the game and my voice drifting in and out as your thoughts slow down. If your eyes are starting to feel heavy, that's perfect. You don't have to fight it. You can let the screen blur a little, or even close your eyes and just picture the lantern light flickering on the books. Take another slow breath in with me, and out. You're safe here. Nothing in this world is going to jump out or demand your attention. The stories can keep going without you needing to keep up. And when you're ready, we'll wander back out of this little library and into our next story. It's not a huge, dramatic revenge this time. It's about a small act of everyday courage, the kind that doesn't make headlines but somehow turns into a lifelong comfort. The kind of choice that quietly rewires a person's whole sense of home. We'll step into that one together right after we linger here for just a few more peaceful moments. the bus seat, and the brave little routine, intro and setup. So now that we've had a moment to breathe in that quiet little library of justice, let's wander somewhere even softer. This next one isn't about courtrooms or landlords or dramatic emails. It's about something much smaller and, honestly, much cozier. It's about how a tiny, awkward act of courage can slowly turn into the warmest part of your routine. Like the way soft Minecraft music in the background can turn into the soundtrack of your whole night. If the earlier stories were about the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, this one is more like emotional chamomile tea. No big revenge, no explosions, just this gentle realization that sometimes the bravest thing you do all day is sit in a particular bus seat. That's the moral here. Those tiny choices you make when you're anxious and exhausted can quietly become the coziest, safest corners of your life. And sometimes someone you don't even know notices and decides to protect that little corner for you. So welcome back to the channel, and grab your favorite blanket if you haven't already. While I slowly place a few more blocks and let the Minecraft cave vibrations hum in the background, let's dive into our fourth story. This one comes from a poster who was not plotting elaborate revenge, not documenting a boss, just trying to survive a daily commute without falling apart. It's low stakes on paper, but if you've ever felt your heart race over something as simple as where to sit, you know it's not actually low stakes at all. From here on, I'm going to slip into their voice. First person. Because that's how they wrote it, and it really helps you feel that mix of dread and tiny, stubborn bravery. I used to hate my commute. Not in the casual, traffic way, but in the way where my stomach would knot up before I even left my apartment. The bus was the worst part of my day. Too many people, too much noise, the kind of random chaos that makes your brain feel like it's on high alert before the sun's even up. I'd get on and immediately feel like I was in the middle of a crowded party I hadn't agreed to attend. There was always something. Someone's music leaking out of cheap earbuds. A loud phone call about work drama. Kids tapping their feet so hard the vibrations rattled through the floor. The unpredictability was what got me the most. I never knew if I'd end up next to a perfectly quiet stranger or someone who thought the bus was their personal living room. One morning, after a particularly bad week where I barely slept, I climbed on the bus and just froze. Every seat felt like a decision I was going to get wrong. Too close to the door, and I'd get bumped by people getting on and off. Too far back, and I'd be trapped in the noise. In the middle, I'd feel like everyone could see me. My brain was running a full risk assessment over chairs. Then I noticed it. One specific seat. Right side, third row from the front. Window seat. Not too close to the driver where I'd feel watched. Not too close to the door where people would brush past me, and just high enough that I could see the whole aisle without having to twist around. There was something weirdly comfortable about knowing exactly what was in front of me, exactly where the exits were, exactly how the light would fall across my lap during that sleepy early morning. I sat there once and it was fine, which for my anxious brain felt like a miracle. No loud talkers, no one crowding my shoulders, just the soft rumble of the engine and the blurry city sliding by the window. The next day, I aimed for that same seat again, like it was my little safe block in a giant, unpredictable Minecraft world. Days turned into weeks, and that seat became my tiny ritual. If I could just make it to my window, I could breathe. My whole morning hinged on that one small, familiar rectangle of fabric and plastic. It was my cozy spawn point before work. And then one morning, I got stuck at a crosswalk and boarded later than usual. My heart sank when I stepped on and saw the bus already crowded. I braced myself to lose the seat, but when I looked down the aisle, something was off. My seat was empty. Completely empty. The aisle seat next to it, though, was taken by the same stranger I'd seen a few times before. They were angled just enough that no one else could slide in. It happened again the next day, and the next. Different crowds, different nights of sleep, different levels of anxiety. but somehow that one stranger always seemed to be quietly guarding my little safe spot, like a silent shield between me and the chaos. And the day I finally got on so late that someone else tried to take it first, I watched them do something that made my heart stop in the best possible way. Story 4. The unspoken agreement. They didn't shove or argue or make a scene. They just moved. One small, almost lazy adjustment, like shifting a block in a Minecraft build that quietly changes the whole layout. As the other person angled toward my seat, this stranger slid their bag into the empty space, leaned an elbow on the rail, and suddenly the path was blocked in the most polite way possible. From where I was standing, half wedged between two people who smelled like they'd come straight from a loud music party, I watched it unfold in slow motion. The would-be sitter hesitated, glanced at the bag, glanced at the stranger, and then chose a different spot without a word. No drama, no eye roll. Just a tiny reroute, the way a Minecraft villager changes direction when a door is in the way. And when I finally reached the seat, heart pounding and palms weirdly sweaty, the stranger looked up at me and gave the smallest nod like, "There you go, it's yours." Now I should describe them because they weren't what you'd picture as some heroic guardian of public transportation. Some days they looked like a tired student, headphones on, hoodie half zipped, backpack hugged close. Other days it was more like an older woman with a worn canvas tote. The kind of person you'd expect to see watering plants in a quiet apartment courtyard. Same face, same gentle eyes, just different outfits that hinted at different slices of their life. They always got on one stop before mine, always sat or stood near that seat, and always seemed oddly relaxed in a space that usually felt like a pressure cooker to me. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. People have routines, right? You get comfortable with a certain door, a certain pole, the way you might always pick the same bed in Minecraft when night falls, but then I started noticing patterns. Someone would drift toward the seat a minute before my stop. The stranger would casually shift their bag onto it, or lean just close enough that it felt occupied. They weren't glaring or staking a claim. They were just present in a way that made other people move on. Sometimes they'd pretend to scroll on their phone, thumb barely moving, eyes slightly unfocused like they were listening to something more interesting in their headphones. Other times they'd subtly angle their body to create a little physical barrier, the way you might build a low fence to guide villagers away from a cliff. And every time I stepped on, scanning the car with that familiar spike of anxiety, I'd see it. The bag sliding off the seat at just the right moment, the stranger's hand lifting it as if by instinct. We never spoke, not once, but we built this tiny, wordless language. A quick glance when the doors opened. A half second of eye contact. A tiny smile that never quite reached full grin. Territory because that would have made it weird, but was just enough to say, "I see you. It's okay." There were days when my chest felt tight from a long, restless night, and that single nod felt like someone placing a torch in a dark tunnel, pushing the shadows back just a bit. Over time, that routine became its own kind of lullaby, predictable, reassuring, like knowing that in this Minecraft world we're wandering through tonight, the sun will set. The ambient cave vibrations will hum softly, and the villagers will shuffle back to their beds on schedule. I'd wake up already dreading the commute, but there was this small, cozy thought waiting for me. If I can just make it to that stop, that seat will probably be there. Not guaranteed, not promised, but likely. And in a life that felt very out of my control, likely was enough to help me drift off to sleep a little easier the night before. It's funny because you and I are here. Welcome back to the channel. Just listening to quiet stories over slow Minecraft gameplay to feel more comfortable at night. And this stranger was doing the real-life version of that for me. No dramatic revenge, no big speech, just soft, consistent kindness. Every day, like clockwork, they were the calm villager in the chaos of the server. And as we keep placing blocks, and letting the gentle sounds of this world wash over us. Let's dive into the moment when that unspoken agreement finally changed, and I had to decide whether to keep pretending it was all an accident or actually acknowledge what they've been doing for me all along. Story 4. A thank you at the end of the line. So there I am, still in that same Minecraft rhythm you're watching on screen, placing blocks one by one when the real-life version of that calm routine suddenly glitches. One ordinary morning, my manager pulls me aside and drops it on me. Schedule change, new assignment, different part of the city. Just like that, my route is changing. No more end-of-the-line bus, no more quiet seat, no more mystery stranger. It's funny how something that started as survival mode can turn into a cozy little ritual you don't want to lose. That bus became my safe apartment on wheels, my moving fortress, against office noise and late-night party vibrations from the neighbors. And now, with one email and a 5-minute chat, it's all about to be over. I remember walking to the stop that day with this weird mix of gratitude and dread. Like the last night in a place you know you're moving out of, but your boxes aren't packed yet. As I sat down in my seat, I could feel every little detail more sharply than usual. The way the fabric felt a bit rough but familiar. The faint hum of the engine under my feet, almost like low music. The way the morning light slid down the windows as we pulled away from the curb. And, of course, the stranger, already there, already standing up with that same easy motion, claiming the aisle so I could tuck myself into the window and pretend none of this took effort. I knew I wasn't coming back after that week. I knew this was the last stretch of our unspoken agreement. But every time I thought, okay, I'll say something when we get close to the end, my throat tightened up. It felt like if I said anything, I'd break the spell. Like naming it out loud would make it less magical, less pure. You ever have a routine so comfortable that you're scared to touch it in case it falls apart? While I'm thinking all of this, in the gameplay, I'm doing the same thing you've been watching. Repetitive, soothing tasks. Mining a tunnel. Laying down rails. Letting the gentle Minecraft ambience help you drift off to sleep while the story does the emotional heavy lifting. Low arousal, predictable, like the route itself, and in both worlds, I'm stalling. Placing one more block. Waiting for one more stop. The second to last day, I almost did it. We hit that familiar long red light near the end of the line, and I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Instead, I did what any socially anxious, overthinking gremlin would do. I rehearsed the entire conversation in my head, complete with alternate endings like I was editing a video timeline. In one version, they laughed. In another, they shrugged. In the worst one, they looked uncomfortable, and our cozy silence shattered into awkwardness. But by the final morning, the decision felt heavier than my work bag. I got on the bus, saw them already standing to clear the seat, and something in me just refused to let this be another quiet ghost moment. I waited until we were a couple stops from the end, heart pounding like I'd just fallen into lava in-game. Then I turned slightly, hands twisted together, and said, very softly, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you." They blinked, surprised, like an NPC that suddenly got new dialogue options. I stumbled on, words tumbling out in a low rush. I told them I was changing routes, that this was my last week, that I'd noticed how they always made sure I got that seat. I admitted that those mornings were the only time my brain actually felt quiet, that their small kindness had been this invisible life raft on days when my sleep was wrecked and my nerves were shot. For a second, I worried I'd said too much. Then their face softened in this incredibly human way. The kind of warm, understanding smile you don't get from big gestures, only from tiny, consistent ones. They let out a little breathy laugh and said something simple like, "I figured you needed it more than I did. I'm glad it helped." No big speech, no dramatic music swell. Just two tired people on a bus, acknowledging that we'd been quietly looking out for each other. When we finally reached the end of the line, I stood up, feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. I thank them again, more calmly this time, and step down onto the pavement, the morning air cool against my face. The bus pulled away, and instead of feeling empty, I felt wrapped in this gentle, lingering sense of connection. Like a warm blanket you can still feel even after you've set it aside. And as I walk away in real life, in this Minecraft world, I'm still moving forward too, following a tunnel that's about to open into something new. Because that wasn't actually the last time that stranger's kindness showed up in my life. It just started looking very different, in a place I never expected. Reflection, invisible kindness, and safe spots. In my real life, that stranger's kindness faded into the background, but the feeling of it didn't. It just slipped into all these little routines, all these quiet bus seat moments that made the world feel a little less sharp around the edges. And I have a feeling you've got your own version of that too, even if you don't always notice it until a night like this, when everything finally slows down. Maybe for you, it's a specific corner of your apartment where the light hits just right at night, and the music from a neighbor's distant party turns into a soft, friendly hum instead of an annoyance. Maybe it's the exact way you make your tea, or the podcast you always put on when you're washing dishes, or that one hoodie you wear so much it basically has your outline memorized. Those tiny things are like reserved bus seats in your day, little pockets where the vibrations of life calm down and your brain finally goes, okay, I'm safe here. I know, revenge stories for bedtime and talking about cozy routines sounds like a weird combo, but they're kind of doing the same job. The stories give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, and the routines give you a place to put that feeling, a stable base where it can actually settle in. Together, they help you drift off to sleep without your mind sprinting laps around tomorrow's to-do list. And just like that original bus seat, there are probably people in your life quietly making things easier without you even clocking it. The coworker who always schedules the meeting 5 minutes later so you can grab coffee. The neighbor who gently shuts the hallway door so it doesn't slam at night. The bus driver who waits that extra second when they see someone running. They don't make a speech about it. They just adjust the world around you by a few degrees so it's more comfortable to exist in. In Minecraft, those invisible kindnesses show up as all the little safety nets you build without thinking. You always know where your bed is, so no matter how far you wander, you'll respawn back in that same cozy room. Your base is lit just enough that mobs can't spawn, and even if you're not consciously checking every torch, some part of your brain relaxes because it recognizes the pattern. This place is safe. The soft footsteps on grass, the gentle ambient sounds, the low music in the background. They all work together like a digital version of your favorite blanket. Pattern interrupt for you. While we're here, just mentally list one or two of your own safe spots. Not big, dramatic ones. The tiny ones. The chair you always sit in. The route you walk that feels familiar. The show you put on when your brain is too tired for new information. Just name them in your head, slowly, like you're placing torches along a path. As you do that, welcome back to the channel energy for a second. This is exactly why I love pairing these stories with slow Minecraft. The game gives your eyes something predictable and gentle to follow, while the narratives give your mind a soft, structured place to wander. It's like building a base in your thoughts and in the world at the same time. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to shift into some really simple, repetitive Minecraft tasks now. Nothing dramatic, no sudden creeper jump scares, just harvesting crops in neat little rows, replanting them, maybe organizing a few chests so everything has its own comfortable spot. You can let the rhythm of that sink in, let the patterns do the heavy lifting for your attention, and give your brain permission to take a break while we quietly move through this cozy little world together. Story 5, The Lost Dog and the Late Night Walk, Intro and Setup. Sometimes helping someone else find home makes you feel a little more at home too, and this next story is one of those quiet, late-night reminders of that. We've had the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. We've had the satisfying revenge arcs, but now I want to tuck in something softer between all the drama, like a cozy blanket between two heavier pillows. So, welcome back to the channel if you're still awake with me. And if you're starting to drift, that's perfect. While the Minecraft world just keeps doing its thing in the background, we're going to shift gears into a different kind of story. No landlords getting wrecked by housing laws, no bosses getting exposed by email trails. This one starts with something really simple, not being able to sleep, and a walk that turns into an unexpected furry little adventure. Let's dive into story 5, The Lost Dog, and the late night walk. It begins on one of those nights where your brain just refuses to clock out. You know the type. You're lying in bed in your apartment, lights off, phone face down, doing everything right, and your thoughts are still throwing a full-on party in your head. No loud music, no real drama, just endless mental vibrations that keep you hovering in that annoying space between awake and asleep. That was me. I'd flip my pillow over so many times it probably qualified as cardio. I tried focusing on my breathing, counting backwards, even listening to the soft Minecraft footsteps and ambient cave echoes I had playing as background noise. Nothing. My body felt tired, but my brain was like, actually, let's replay every awkward conversation you've had since middle school. Very helpful, super sleep friendly. After a while, I just gave up on the whole lie perfectly still and hope for the best strategy. I sat up, swung my legs out of bed, and just let my feet rest on the cool floor for a second. The apartment was quiet in that specific way only late night can manage. No upstairs neighbors stomping around, no hallway doors slamming, just the distant hum of the building and the faint whoosh of traffic outside. I thought, all right, if I'm not going to sleep, I might as well change the scenery. So I pulled on a hoodie, slipped into some shoes, and decided to go for a slow, nothing important walk around the block. Just enough to reset my brain, get a little bit of fresh air, and maybe come back feeling a bit more comfortable in my own head. As I opened the door, that hallway air hit me. A little cooler, a little stiller, like stepping out of a warm cave into an open Minecraft Plains biome at dusk. Outside, the night felt almost unreal. The sky was this deep, soft navy, with a few stubborn stars peeking through the city glow. The streetlights painted long, pale pools of light on the empty sidewalks. Distant traffic sounded like ocean waves far away, just a low, steady rush instead of individual cars. A light wind moved through the trees, making the leaves whisper, and every now and then you'd hear a distant door close, or a muffled laugh from some late-night gathering. It reminded me of wandering a peaceful Minecraft Plains biome when the sun has just dipped below the horizon. No mobs in sight, no rush to build a wall or light up an area, just that soft, blue-tinted calm. The kind of moment where you can hear your own footsteps on the grass, the gentle crunch of blocks, and maybe some quiet music playing in the background to help you drift off to sleep. As I walked, my footsteps echoed a little on the sidewalk, a small, steady rhythm against the hush of the night. Street after street was empty, windows mostly dark, a few soft rectangles of light where other night owls were still awake. The air felt clean and cool in my lungs, and for the first time that night, my thoughts started to slow down, lining up instead of crashing into each other. I just turned the corner by a small park, thinking about heading back and trying sleep again when I heard it. At first, it was so soft I almost wrote it off as the wind or some distant TV. But then it came again. A tiny, uncertain sound, like a soft, confused whimper drifting out from somewhere nearby in the dark. Story 5, Earning a Little Trust. That second whimper cut right through the quiet of the neighborhood, like a tiny ripple across still water. In the same way the soft Minecraft music in the background just kind of hums along under these stories, that sound sat there under the cool night air and refused to be ignored. I slowed down, letting my footsteps get quieter, and followed it toward the little park. The streetlights didn't quite reach the middle, so everything past the path was this soft, shadowy blur. You know that feeling when you're walking through a dark cave in Minecraft with just a couple of torches placed, and the edges of your screen are there but not really there? It felt like that. I told myself, all right, Welcome back to the channel, Universe. Apparently, we're doing a side quest tonight. As I got closer, the sound came again, more of a low, anxious whine this time. I stepped off the sidewalk onto the slightly damp grass, feeling that cool, springy give under my shoes. The night was extra still. No party music from any apartment windows, just the distant hum of traffic and the soft vibrations of my own heartbeat in my ears. Near one of the small trees, I finally saw movement. A shape shifted, then froze. When my eyes adjusted, I realized it was a dog, half crouched, half standing, like it couldn't quite decide if it wanted to run or stay. Its fur was a light color but streaked with mud up the legs and along one side like it had maybe slipped in a puddle or rolled somewhere it shouldn't have. Even from a few steps away, I could see the glint of a collar around its neck. That was the first little wave of relief. A collar meant this wasn't a long-term stray. Somewhere out there, someone was probably lying awake in their bed, not able to sleep, wondering where their dog was. Kind of ironic, right? I'd left my bed because I couldn't sleep, and now I might be the reason someone else could finally relax. I crouched down slowly, making myself smaller, and kept my voice low and soft, the way I talk to you to help you drift off to sleep. I shifted into that exact tone. "Hey, buddy," I whispered. "It's okay. I see you." I didn't move toward the dog yet. I just stayed there, letting the moment settle, breathing slowly on purpose so I wouldn't accidentally spook it. The dog's ears flicked forward, then back. Its tail gave one tiny, hesitant wag, then stopped like it was second-guessing whether I'd earned that yet. The metal tags on its collar jingled softly when it shifted its weight. This tiny, bright sound against the quiet night. It let out another little whine but didn't back away. I extended my hand, palm down, fingers loose, keeping it low and not reaching straight for its face. If you've ever tried to tame a wolf in Minecraft, you know that feeling of inching closer, waiting for that little heart to pop up. Real life doesn't give you floating icons, but body language is pretty close. I stayed where I was and let the dog make the next move. For a few long seconds, nothing happened. Then slowly, it took one small step forward, then another. I could hear its breathing now, quick but not panicked. It stretched its neck out, sniffed the air between us like it was testing the idea of trusting me before committing. Finally, its nose brushed my knuckles, warm and a little damp. "Good dog," I murmured, barely above a breath. I kept my hand still while it sniffed, moving up my fingers, then along my wrist, like it was reading my whole story in scent. The tail did that tiny wag again, this time sticking with it for more than a second. The tags on its collar chimed with each cautious movement, like soft little bells. Once it seemed a bit more settled, I slowly lifted my other hand, giving it plenty of time to see what I was doing. "I'm just going to check your collar, okay?" I said, more for my own nerves than for the dog. My fingers brushed the muddy fur at its neck, cool and slightly damp, and found the edge of the collar. I felt raised metal under my thumb. Tags. Definitely tags. That was the first real spark of hope. In a world where so many of the revenge stories we read together start with people being careless or cruel, this felt like the opposite. Someone had loved this dog enough to give it a way home. If there was a phone number on there, there was a real chance we could wrap this little adventure up tonight, with a happy ending and that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. But like the wholesome pet version. The problem was it was still pretty dark. I could feel the tags, but I couldn't read anything without basically putting my face right up to them, and I didn't want to push my luck. The dog was calmer now, but its muscles were still a little tense under my hand, like it was ready to bolt if I made one wrong move. I glanced back toward the street where a nearby lamp cast a soft pool of yellow light onto the sidewalk. "Okay, buddy," I said quietly. "How about we go over there where it's brighter and we see what your story is, huh?" I gave the collar the gentlest little pressure, not pulling, just suggesting a direction. The dog hesitated, then took a tiny step with me, tags chiming again. One step, then another. Each movement felt like a little vote of confidence, The night air brushed cool against my face as we inched toward the streetlight, the park fading behind us into softer shadows. I could feel that mix of nerves and cautious excitement building, the same way you feel when you're just about to flip over a crucial page in a Reddit post. As we stepped into the edge of the light and the metal tags finally caught the glow, I reached up to turn one between my fingers, and that's when I saw something that made me stop mid-breath. Story 5. A grateful doorstep and a sleepier OP. It was the phone number stamped neat and clear on the little metal tag. In that soft circle of streetlight, with the night humming quietly around us like distant Minecraft music, it suddenly felt like the next logical step, and also the scariest thing in the world. I know revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes the most comforting thing is just watching someone do the right thing at the exact right moment. So I pulled out my phone with slightly shaky fingers and dialed. Half of me expected it to go straight to voicemail or to some disconnected tone that would leave us standing there in the quiet, dog and all, wondering what to do next. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the tiny vibrations of the phone in my hand, like the gentle rumble of walking over stone blocks in Minecraft. On the 4th ring, someone picked up. The voice that answered was sleepy, thick with that middle of the night confusion, but it snapped into focus in about half a second when I said, "Hi, I'm sorry to call so late, but I think I found your dog." You could hear the shift from foggy to laser focused, like when you're half asleep and suddenly hear a weird noise in your apartment. The owner repeated, "My dog? You have my dog?" And I could practically feel the panic and hope wrestling in their chest. They asked where we were, and when I described the park and the corner with the flickering streetlight, they just said, "Stay right there, please, I'm coming," and hung up. No hesitation. A few minutes later, we saw this figure hurrying down the sidewalk, still in pajama pants and slippers, hair all mussed, coat half zipped. It would have been funny if it wasn't so obviously fueled by worry. They kept scanning the shadows until their eyes landed on the dog. The transformation was instant. The dog's ears perked. Then the tail started going like a metronome on fast forward. Those little whiny, happy noises started up, the kind you can feel in your chest more than hear. The owner dropped to their knees on the cold sidewalk without even thinking, arms open, and the dog practically launched into them. It was like watching someone load back into their cozy Minecraft base after a long, scary cave run. Just pure relief. The owner kept saying, oh my God, I thought I'd lost you," into the dog's fur, then looked up at us with eyes that were suddenly shiny in the streetlight. "You stayed with him? You called me? Thank you, seriously, thank you so much." They offered a very earnest, slightly awkward hug, and I'm not really a random hug person, but in that moment, it felt completely natural. They started apologizing for dragging us out in the middle of the night, then offered to buy us coffee sometime or drop off some pastries or literally anything. Just tell me what you like. I laughed and told them it was no big deal, that we were up anyway and just wanted to make sure the little guy got home. Inside the Wanchanochas, I could feel that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, even if this wasn't revenge at all. Just the universe quietly putting a lost piece back where it belonged. As we finally said goodnight and turned to walk home, the street felt different, softer, quieter. The earlier anxiety that had my brain buzzing like a loud party in the next apartment had melted into something calmer, like when you finish building a cozy house in Minecraft and just stand there listening to the rain. I could feel my shoulders dropping, my breathing slowing down. By the time I slipped back into my own place, the whole night had settled into this gentle, satisfied memory. I crawled into bed, feeling more comfortable in my own skin, heart a little fuller, knowing that for once I'd added a small, good thing to the world instead of just lying awake, spiraling. So, as you grab your favorite blanket and let these stories help you drift off to sleep, just remember, sometimes the tiniest choices, one phone call, one lost dog, one quiet walk home, are enough to tip the whole night toward peace. And with that thought, let's dive into our next story. Micro break, nighttime in the Minecraft village are enough to tip the whole night toward peace. And with that thought, let's dive into our next story. Or actually, before we dive into anything, let's just pause for a second and look around this little Minecraft world. The sun is sliding down behind those blocky hills, and the village is starting to glow. Lanterns are flickering on one by one, like tiny cozy stars someone hung at eye level just for us. The villagers are doing that funny little shuffle toward their apartments, doors clicking shut as the sky shifts from soft orange to deep blue. Out here, it's quiet in that perfectly comfortable way. You can hear the soft footsteps on grass, the gentle clink of a door, maybe a cow in the distance sounding like it's half asleep already. There's no party, no chaos, just those calm Minecraft vibrations in the background. The music is low, almost like it's humming to itself. If you've ever watched The Village at night like this, you know it feels weirdly safe, like the whole map is tucking itself in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're already half asleep, that's honestly the goal. I know. Revenge stories for bedtime sounds a little backwards, but this is the part of the night where the world slows down. The villagers are inside, the lanterns are steady, and all the messy daytime drama gets left outside the walls. Right now, you don't have to solve anything. You're just here, listening, letting the stories help you drift off to sleep. While we walk slowly through the village path, past the farms and over this little bridge, take a second to check in with your body. Is your jaw clenched a bit? Shoulders creeping up towards your ears? If you can, let your tongue drop from the roof of your mouth. Let your shoulders sink into the mattress or the couch, and let your hands get heavy. You don't need perfect posture to listen to Minecraft footsteps. As I head toward this tiny house with a blue bed, notice the way your back meets whatever you're lying on. Imagine the last bits of tension melting down into it, like sand settling in water. Your legs can be lazy, your breathing can slow down. Nothing in these stories is going to jump out at you. No sudden loud music, no boss bursting into your apartment demanding a report. Just soft narration, gentle sounds, and that slow, predictable rhythm your brain can follow without effort. Let's step inside and close the door. The lantern in here gives off that warm, golden light, and the night outside the window looks calm, almost fuzzy. I'm going to click on this Minecraft bed and sleep through the night. And you can treat that like your little permission slip to drift, too. As the screen fades and the stars blink away, think of it as your own mind gently switching from alert mode to dream mode. And just like that, it's morning in the game again. The sky's bright, the villagers are starting their day, and everything quietly reset while we rested. That's kind of how these stories work. They're intentionally low stakes and a bit repetitive, looping in that same cozy pattern so your thoughts don't have to sprint in 10 directions at once. You know the shape by now. Someone does something unfair, our storyteller stays patient, gathers proof, and eventually we all get that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. There's something very sleep-friendly about that predictability. Low arousal, steady narration, the same soft Minecraft ambiance, the same gentle footsteps on grass or wood. Your brain starts to recognize the pattern. Nothing bad is happening here, nothing urgent is required of you, and it's safe to let go. If you miss a detail, that's fine. These stories aren't a test. They're more like background music for your thoughts. Just enough structure so your mind doesn't wander into tomorrow's worries. Before we move on, do a tiny body scan one more time. Notice your forehead, your eyes, even the muscles around your ears. If anything still feels tight, imagine it's softening the way the Minecraft sky softened from day to night. Every exhale can be a little reset, like clicking that bed and skipping past the stressful parts of the day. In a moment, we're going to step back out into the village and pick up our next story, and this one's going to feel a little like a blanket fresh out of the dryer. It's about a comforting family tradition that shows up exactly when it's needed most. The kind of ritual that turns a bad day into a quietly beautiful night. So stay as you are, keep sinking into whatever you're lying on, and let's dive into that next cozy story together. Story 6, The Sunday Pancake Tradition, Intro and Setup. So as we keep wandering through this little Minecraft village together, welcome back to the channel. The sun's probably setting over our blocky hills again, the music is soft, and this next one isn't about revenge at all. It's about something quieter, but honestly just as powerful. The way simple rituals can hold us together when everything else feels uncertain. Because that's the quiet moral of this story. Not every bit of justice is dramatic. Sometimes the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served is just life giving you back something you thought you'd lost, right when you're sure you're completely alone. This is a story about pancakes, a Sunday routine, and how a tiny tradition can feel like a life raft in the middle of a very heavy ocean. Let's dive into story 6, The Sunday Pancake Tradition. I grew up in one of those small, slightly cluttered houses that always smelled like yesterday's coffee and whatever my mom was planning to cook next. But Sundays were different. Sundays smelled like pancake batter and a maple syrup before I was even fully awake. I'd hear the faint hum of the old radio in the kitchen, playing the same cheesy, soft rock station every week, like the music itself was part of the recipe. My room was right above the kitchen, so the first thing that hit me was the smell. Warm, sweet, a little bit buttery. Then the sounds would drift up. The soft clink of a mixing bowl, the gentle hiss when the batter hit the hot pan, my dad humming off key along with some song he'd definitely heard 1,000 times. The whole apartment would feel like it was vibrating with this low, cozy energy, like the building itself knew it was Sunday and decided to relax. We had a routine. My mom flipped pancakes, my dad was in charge of music and pretending to be the quality control inspector, which mostly meant stealing the first slightly burnt one. I set the table, even when I was little, lining up the forks way too carefully, like this was some kind of fancy party instead of 3 sleepy people in mismatched pajamas. It was predictable, repetitive, and absolutely perfect for a kid whose brain never really wanted to slow down at night. As I got older, life started doing that thing it does, where the edges of the cozy routine fray a little. My dad picked up a second job. My mom started working some weekends. I got busier with school, then with friends, then with the kind of late night music and homework marathons that make Sunday mornings a lot harder to wake up for. At first, we just shifted the time. Pancakes at 10 instead of 8. Then some weeks it was, we'll do it next time. And then one day there just wasn't a next time. Nobody announced the end of the tradition. There was no big fight, no dramatic moment. It just faded. One Sunday, I woke up to the smell of pancakes, and a few months later, I woke up to the smell of burnt toast and my mom rushing out the door with coffee in a travel mug. After that, Sundays became catch-up days. Laundry, errands, scrolling on my phone, trying to ignore the little hollow place where the ritual used to sit. Fast forward a few years, and I'm an adult in my own place, in a different city. The cozy childhood house has been replaced by a small apartment with thin walls and neighbors who like to have a party at exactly the wrong nights for sleep. My life looked very grown up from the outside, but inside it felt like someone had taken my schedule, shaken it like a snow globe, and walked away while everything was still falling. Work was rough. My relationship had just ended in that quiet, exhausting way where nobody's the villain, but everyone's tired. I was going to bed late, waking up even later, and letting the days blur together with the kind of gray, low-energy vibrations that make it hard to remember what you're even working toward. One particular week, everything seemed to pile on at once. A bad review from my boss, a bill I'd forgotten about, a lonely Friday night where the silence in my living room felt louder than any party next door. And then came Sunday. I remember opening my eyes to a room that felt especially empty, like the air itself was heavier. No plans, no one texting. What are you doing today? No background music, no familiar clatter from a kitchen downstairs. Just me, a quiet apartment, and a hollow feeling in my chest that made it hard to even swing my feet out of bed. I lay there listening to the distant, muffled sounds of the city waking up, thinking about how far away those old pancake mornings felt when something unexpected broke through that silence. Story 6. Recreating comfort from memory. What broke through was so small, I almost ignored it. A craving. Not for coffee, not for something fancy, just pancakes. Those same, slightly lopsided pancakes from when I was a kid. It hit me like a little memory echo, and for once, instead of rolling over and scrolling in the dark, I actually swung my feet out of bed and thought, okay, fine, let's see what happens. The apartment felt extra quiet as I padded into the kitchen, like the walls were holding their breath with me. I didn't have a real recipe, just muscle memory and half-remembered vibrations of Saturday mornings. A scoop of flour into a chipped mixing bowl, a lazy sprinkle of sugar, a pinch of salt that felt more like a guess than a measurement. The whisk clinked against the sides, and I watched the dry ingredients puff up in a little cloud before I added milk and an egg, stirring until it turned into that familiar, slow ribbon batter. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. It just needed to feel like home for a minute. I set the pan on the stove and let it heat up while I rummaged through my phone. If I was going to do this, I wanted the soundtrack right. When I was a kid, my parents would put on this mellow weekend mix. Soft oldies, a little acoustic guitar, nothing too intense. I scrolled until I found something similar, hit play, and suddenly my small kitchen wasn't so silent anymore. Gentle music drifted out of my tinny phone speaker, filling the space with this cozy, familiar noise that made the room feel less like a lonely box and more like a tiny, lived-in world. The first scoop of batter hit the pan with a soft hiss, that little sizzle that always feels like a promise. The smell came next. Warm, slightly sweet, a little buttery even before I added anything. I watched the surface bubble, the way I remembered standing on a chair and watching my parent do it, waiting for just the right moment to flip. I messed it up, of course. The first pancake folded on itself, landing a bit crooked and too pale on one side, too dark on the other. It looked exactly like the first one always did back then, and somehow that made me weirdly comfortable. I stacked a few on a plate, added a small square of butter that started to melt into shiny little rivers, and drizzled syrup in a lazy spiral. The music hummed in the background, and for the first time in a long time, the apartment didn't feel like a place I was just passing through. It felt like somewhere I might actually be allowed to rest, to sleep, to have my own quiet party with nobody watching. On impulse, I wiped my hands, grabbed my phone, and snapped a picture of the slightly uneven pancake stack on my tiny counter. The lighting was terrible, the plate was chipped, and there were a few splatters of batter on the stove, but it all looked honest. I sent it to the family group chat with a half-joking caption, attempting to revive Pancake Saturday. Results, questionable, but edible. I locked the screen and set the phone face down, not really expecting anything. Families are busy, people move on. I took a bite, chewed slowly, listening to the soft music and the distant city outside my window, letting the flavors pull up old, cozy stories in my head. For a minute, it was just me and the pancakes and this strange, quiet contentment. Then my phone buzzed once, then again. Then it started going off like I just announced a surprise revenge party instead of a lonely breakfast. When I finally flipped it over, the chat was lighting up. Laughing messages, "No way you started without us." And then from one of my siblings, "Put the coffee on, I'm on my way. I'm bringing berries and whipped cream." Another text followed from a parent. "I've got chocolate chips and maple syrup. Don't you dare clean the kitchen before we get there." I just stood there in my little kitchen, holding a fork, listening to the music and the low hum of the pan still warm on the stove, realizing that this tiny, impulsive attempt to recreate comfort from memory had just turned into something else entirely. The apartment didn't feel so quiet anymore. It felt like the start of a new version of an old tradition, and I had no idea just how much that morning was about to change the way my nights felt too. Story 6. A new version of an old ritual. I was still staring at that single plate when my phone buzzed again, way too early for anything dramatic, and I saw my cousin's name pop up with a, "Wait, you made Saturday pancakes without me?" message. A minute later, the buzzer went off, and before I could even process it, they were at my apartment door, slightly out of breath, hair messed up under a beanie, grinning like they'd just sprinted through the whole building because, well, they had. They kicked off their shoes, still laughing, and said, "You sent that picture," and my brain just went, "Nope, we're doing this." It had been such short notice that they were still in mismatched pajamas, and it made the whole thing feel even cozier, like an accidental sleepover that spilled into the morning. They dropped a grocery bag on the counter with a dramatic flourish. Extra syrup, chocolate chips, and the cheap brand of pancake mix our parents used to buy when money was tight. Somehow, that little box hit harder than any fancy brunch could. We slipped into the old rhythm without really talking about it. I handed over the whisk like it was a baton, and they immediately started overmixing the batter on purpose just to see if I'd react the way I used to as a kid. I did. We laughed about the time I forgot to add baking powder, and we made what were basically pancake tortillas, and the time they turned the heat up too high and smoked out the whole kitchen so badly the music from next door stopped because the neighbors were probably wondering if they should call someone. It felt like we were moving through a script our hands remembered, even when our lives didn't match the old schedule anymore. As we cooked, we traded updates in that slow, looping way you do when you're not rushing to beat a work meeting or a noisy party in the next room. They talked about their new job and how the office lights buzzed just a little too loudly, like bad fluorescent vibrations humming in the background of every day. I talked about my weird sleep schedule, how I'd been using cozy Minecraft videos and low-drama Reddit stories to help me drift off to sleep, letting the soft music and predictable little blocky movements calm my brain down. We didn't solve anything huge. We just compared notes on being adults who still missed the simple comfort of knowing pancakes would be there every Saturday. The tradition felt different now. Smaller, quieter. No parents rushing around, no stack of plates for a whole crowd, no cartoon blaring in the background. Just two adults in a tiny apartment kitchen, moving around each other in soft socks, talking over the sizzle of the pan and the low hum of the fridge. But under all that, there was this familiar, steady feeling, like when you load into a peaceful Minecraft world you haven't visited in a while, and everything is right where you left it. Not identical. Just still yours. At one point, while we were eating at my little table, my cousin pointed their fork at me and said, "You know we could do this again, right? Not every week, but like when we can." I shrugged, pretending to be casual, even though my chest felt weirdly tight in a good way. "Yeah," I said. "No pressure, no schedule. Just, if we're around, we do pancakes." There was no dramatic pledge, no group chat announcement, no calendar invite. Just a quiet, mutual agreement that this didn't have to be all or nothing to be real. Sitting there, watching the steam curl off the last pancake, I realized something I hadn't been able to admit to myself on all those lonely Saturday mornings. Comfort didn't have to look exactly like it did when I was a kid to still count. It didn't need the full cast, the exact same music, the same time, the same table. It just needed intention and a little bit of warmth and someone willing to show up, even on short notice, slightly out of breath and holding a grocery bag. That morning settled over me like a blanket I didn't know I'd been missing. The apartment was still small, the night ahead still long, my sleep still not perfect. But the edges felt softer now, like maybe I could build new rituals the way you slowly build a cozy base in a quiet game. One block, one story, one weekend at a time. And I had no idea, sitting there with a syrup on my plate and my cousin stealing the last bite, that this tiny promise we'd just made was about to collide with a completely different kind of late-night comfort I never expected to share. Reflection, rituals, respawn points, and feeling safe. So there I was, sitting in that noisy apartment with sticky syrup fingers, making this tiny promise about Sunday pancakes, and I didn't realize we were basically inventing a respawn point for our feelings. Not the dramatic game over kind. More like an emotional checkpoint, a place you know you'll come back to, even after a long week of weird meetings, late night party vibrations through the wall, and neighbors arguing about who forgot to take out the trash. In games, you always know where your bed is. In Minecraft, that little white rectangle is everything. You can wander off, get lost in a cave, hear those distant, echoing zombie noises under the calm music, but somewhere in the back of your mind, you're tracking that one safe spot. That's your anchor, your base, your, it's okay, I can always go back there, square on the map. Real life has versions of that, even if they don't look impressive from the outside. Sunday pancakes. The exact way you make your tea at night. The same playlist you turn on when you're trying to sleep after a long day of listening to other people's problems. These tiny rituals are like setting your spawn point in a world that doesn't always give you a mini-map. In this cozy little Minecraft world on screen, I always know where my bed is. I know which chest has the extra coal. I know the path from the farm to the front door, even if a creeper has done some creative landscaping along the way. And you might have your own version of that in your day. Maybe it's the way you always check the lock twice before bed, or the habit of scrolling through a couple of soft Reddit stories to help you drift off to sleep. Pattern interrupt for a second. Think about how weirdly powerful it is that just boiling water and pouring it over the same tea bag every night can change how your brain feels about the dark. Your body goes, oh, right, this. We know this part. We're safe now. It's not dramatic. No one is going to make a movie about your chamomile routine, but your nervous system absolutely would give it a 5-star review. If you want, while you listen to these stories and watch me shuffle around this cozy base, you can quietly pick one tiny ritual in your head. Nothing big. Nothing for social media. Just one little thing that's yours. Maybe it's lighting the same candle when the sun goes down. Maybe it's always changing into the same soft shirt when you get home from work. Maybe it's deciding that every night you'll take 30 seconds to stand at the window and look at the night sky, even if all you can see is the glow from the next apartment over. It doesn't have to be impressive. In fact, it's better if it isn't. The point isn't to optimize your life, it's to make it feel a little more comfortable, a little more predictable, like knowing that no matter how wild the revenge stories get, we're still here in this calm Minecraft world, letting that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served mix with the soft footstep sounds and the low music in the background. So, welcome back to the channel if you're a regular, and if you're new, grab your favorite blanket and just let yourself sink into this. While you're thinking about that one tiny ritual, old or new, I'm going to wander over to our little farm here. We'll do some slow, repetitive harvesting, maybe a bit of fishing down by the water, the kind of gentle looping tasks that turn your brain down from alert to drowsy. Let's dive into that rhythm together and let your thoughts drift like the fishing bobber on a quiet Minecraft pond. Story 7, The Note in the Secondhand Book, Intro and Setup. And while that little Minecraft bobber just drifts and dips on the water, I want to shift us into a different kind of quiet story. Not revenge this time, no dramatic apartment showdowns or vibrating ceilings. This one is more like the soft echo after the party's over. When the music is off, the night is still, and you're just lying there with your own thoughts. It's about how sometimes we stumble into other people's stories right when we need them most. I know. Usually we're here for that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. But every once in a while, the universe sneaks in a different kind of payoff. Not someone getting fired or exposed or finally moving out, but something gentler. A line in a book, a random comment, a small kindness from a stranger that lands in your life at exactly the right moment. That's the moral of this next one. You never really know where the next little bit of comfort is going to come from, or whose handwriting it's going to be in. So, welcome back to the channel if you've drifted in and out a few times already tonight. While our Minecraft character just walks slowly back toward the village, footsteps soft on the grass, let's dive into a quieter corner of Reddit. This is Story 7, The Note in the Secondhand Book. No explosions, no dramatic confrontations, just a cozy, slightly mysterious moment, that somehow feels like it was meant to find you. In this one, I'm going to slip fully into first person because that's how it was written, and it really does feel like you're right there with OP. Picture this. It's a gray afternoon, the kind of day where the sky looks like it's trying to help you drift off to sleep, even though it's only 3 in the afternoon. I duck into this tiny used bookstore, wedged between a loud bar and a takeout place. You can almost feel the vibrations from the music next door through the wall. But in the shop itself, it's quiet, like someone pressed a mute button on the world. I'm alone in the aisle, just me and these tall shelves of slightly crooked stories. I run my fingers along the spines, feeling that mix of smooth plastic covers and soft, worn cardboard. There's this faint smell of old paper and dust, and maybe a hint of coffee from the owner's mug up at the counter. It's the kind of cozy, low-stimulation place that feels like the opposite of scrolling on your phone. No notifications, no bright lights, just rows and rows of other people's imaginations waiting to be picked up. I'm not looking for anything in particular at first. I'm just letting my hand drift, reading titles, recognizing a few from school, skipping the ones that look too heavy for a night read. And then I see it. A book I've been meaning to read for years. One of those classics people always talk about, that I've nodded along to in conversations like, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to get to that." The cover is a little faded, the corner is slightly bent, but it's there, right at eye level, like it's been waiting for me to finally stop pretending and actually take it home. I pull it off the shelf and flip it open. The pages are that soft, slightly yellowed kind that make a comforting little whisper when you thumb through them. On the inside cover, there's an old price sticker partially peeled off and the new one from the shop slapped on top. It's cheap. Cheaper than a coffee, cheaper than takeout, and somehow that makes it even better. There's something satisfying about knowing you're about to get hours of story for the price of a bus fare. I pay, tuck it under my arm, and head back to my apartment as the sky gets darker. Later that night, I do my own little bedtime ritual. I turn off the big light, leave just a soft lamp on, and climb into bed. The room is quiet, just the faint hum of the building and maybe a car passing outside. I prop the book up against my knees, feeling that comfortable weight of it, and finally open to the first page. As I do, something small and light slips out from the middle and flutters down, landing right on the blanket beside me. Story 7, A Stranger's Words at the Perfect Time. It lands so softly that for a second I just watch it, like a little paper leaf drifting down through lamplight. And because we're already tucked in, you and me, with this cozy Minecraft world on screen and a quiet night outside, it feels weirdly important. Like the universe just dropped a tiny side quest into our lap to help you drift off to sleep. I pick it up carefully. It's a small piece of lined notebook paper, cut a little unevenly, like somebody tore it from a larger page and then trimmed it with dull scissors. The ink is slightly faded, that soft blue-gray you get when a pen's been in a drawer for years. The folds are crisp, though, like it's been kept closed for a long time, pressed between pages the way people save flowers. It feels light, but deliberate, not like a random grocery list that accidentally got left behind. I unfold it slowly, the way you'd ease open an old letter from a relative. The paper makes that gentle crackle, and in my head, the Minecraft music is just kind of humming along in the background, like a soundtrack. On the inside, the handwriting is neat, but a little wobbly, like someone who doesn't usually write long notes, but really wanted this to be legible. At the top, underlined twice, it says, "For the days when you think you're not going to make it." Already my chest does that tiny squeeze. You know the one. I keep reading. The note isn't dramatic. It's not some big poetic speech. It's more like a quiet checklist of comfort from one tired human to another. Breathe. Eat something small. Drink water. Take a shower even if you don't want to. Text one safe person. Go outside for 5 minutes. You have survived 100% of your bad days so far. This one is not special enough to beat you. There's a little line break, and then, "You're not lazy, you're tired. You're not broken, you're overloaded. Rest is not a reward, it is fuel. Please keep going. Future you is cheering for you, and so am I. A stranger who got through it. At the bottom in smaller writing, it just says, put the book down and sleep if you need to. The story will wait. I just sit there staring at it. In the dim light of the apartment, with the building's low vibrations humming through the floor and that faint Minecraft cave ambience in my headphones, it hits harder than it probably should. Because the thing is, OP hasn't been doing great. Not in a dramatic movie meltdown way. More in that quiet, grinding way where every day feels like walking through waist-deep water. They've been behind on work. The sink is full of dishes that somehow feel 10 times heavier than they are. Messages from friends sit unread because answering them feels like an exam. Sleep has been weird and patchy, and even these cozy stories and peaceful, blocky landscapes have started to feel like more effort than escape. That line about, you're not lazy, you're tired, might as well be underlined in neon. It doesn't feel spooky, though. Not like the book is haunted or the note is some cursed artifact. It feels kind. Like somebody who had one really bad night in this same story, in this same book, decided to leave a little lifeline for whoever came after them. And by sheer coincidence, it ended up in OP's hands on a night when they were just trying to distract themselves long enough to fall asleep. OP feels their eyes sting a little. Not full-on crying, just that warm, prickly feeling behind the eyelids. There's a tiny, mildly ironic thought that drifts through. Of course, the most helpful thing they've read all week isn't in their email or a self-help article, but on a wrinkled scrap of paper hiding in a used book. Somehow that makes it feel even more trustworthy. They read the last line again. Put the book down and sleep if you need to. The story will wait. It lines up almost perfectly with what they've been doing lately, pushing themselves to stay up, scrolling, reading, watching one more video, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts in the dark. This stranger is basically giving them permission to tap out early, to just rest. After a moment, OP folds the note back along its original creases, smoothing it gently with their thumb. They tuck it right back into the middle of the book, about where it fell from, like a secret bookmark only they know about now. It's comforting knowing it's there, like a tiny emergency kit made of words. They close the book for a second, fingers resting on the cover, listening to the quiet night and the soft Minecraft music. And just as they're deciding whether to actually follow the note's advice and turn off the light, their thumb brushes against something stiff-taped to the inside back cover that they somehow didn't notice before. Story 7, passing it on quietly. It's a second note. Not from the author, not printed. Just a little square paper folded in half, taped so neatly it almost disappears into the inside of the cover. OP peels it up carefully like they're afraid it'll tear and unfolds it. The handwriting is a little messy, a little sleepy looking, like someone wrote it late, at night when the apartment was quiet and the only vibrations were from the fridge humming in the kitchen. It says, "If you're reading this, you made it all the way to the end. I'm proud of you. Here are a few things that help me when my brain won't shut up at night." And then there's this tiny list. Warm tea, slow music with no words, counting breaths instead of problems, imagining a safe little place, like a cabin in the snow or a cozy Minecraft base, letting yourself be tired without being mad about it. OP just sits there for a minute, thumb smoothing the edge of the paper. It's so simple. No big dramatic Reddit revenge twist, no grand speech, just someone who knew what it felt like to need a stranger's voice in the dark. And in that moment, OP realizes this book has turned into a little chain of people quietly handing each other flashlights in the hallway. They think about all the nights they've fallen asleep to videos like this one, where you welcome back to the channel and grab your favorite blanket, and let's dive into some stories that help you drift off to sleep. The calm Minecraft footsteps, the soft keyboard clicks, the way predictable, low drama content slowly pulls your brain out of panic mode and into that fuzzy in between place. This book, with its hidden notes, is doing the same thing, just on paper. So OP goes to their desk, digs around for a blank sticky note, and pauses. They don't want to overwrite the original message. They want to add to it, like another little block on a shared build. They flip to a mostly empty page near the back, the kind you'd normally skip, and carefully press the sticky note down. For a second, they just stare at it, pen hovering, feeling slightly ridiculous, and also weirdly nervous. Then they start to write. Hi, I don't know you, but I'm glad you're here. They add, if it's a rough night, you're not failing at sleep. Your brain's just a little too loud right now. Under that, they make their own tiny list. Dim lights. A glass of water within reach. One chapter or one video, and then letting your eyes close. Imagining soft rain on the roof, or the sound of Minecraft music playing while you build something small and pointless but cozy. Letting yourself restart tomorrow without keeping score. They add a little arrow pointing back toward the other note. Someone else left a good list too. You're kind of surrounded. It makes them smile because it's true. Even alone in their room, they're suddenly very aware of how many invisible hands have probably touched this exact cover, flipped these exact pages, breathed out the same little sigh of relief at finding out they weren't the only ones struggling with the night. The next day, instead of sliding the book back onto their own shelf, OP walks it down the street to one of those free little libraries. The wooden box is a bit crooked, the paint peeling just enough to be charming. There's a random mix of kids' books, an old cookbook, a mystery novel with a cracked spine. OP nestles this book right in the middle, spine facing out, like tucking someone in. They close the little glass door and stand there for a second, watching their reflection blur in the smudged pane. They'll probably never know who picks it up next. It might be a teenager who can't sleep because the world feels too loud, or a parent reading in the only quiet 10 minutes they get all day, or someone who just likes the cover and has no idea there's a tiny emergency kit of words waiting at the back. And that's kind of the quiet magic of it. Most of the time, we don't get the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served with a big finale or a neat update post. We just leave these tiny, invisible comforts behind us without realizing it. An extra blanket in the closet, a playlist that makes someone feel a little less alone, a note in a book that whispers, hey, you're doing okay. Somewhere, someone will open that cover on some random night, and those layered, gentle choices will be there, catching them just enough that they can finally let go and sleep. Wind down, letting the stories fade into background noise. So as all those little invisible comforts stack up, I want you to notice how your own body is starting to mirror that feeling. Your shoulders might be a bit heavier, you're breathing a little slower, and the night around you just a touch softer, like the volume on the world has finally turned down. Tonight we wandered through such simple, gentle stories. Neighbors and noise, sure, but not the chaotic, keep you up all night party kind. More like learning how to nudge the universe until it remembers you deserve quiet. Treehouses tucked behind old apartments, where kids schemed about snacks instead of revenge. Libraries with secret notes left between dusty pages. Tiny paper messages that hummed with those cozy vibrations of being seen. A bus seat offered at the exact right moment. A lost dog who wasn't really lost so much as waiting for the right person to care enough to look. Pancakes at odd hours. A scribbled reminder that someone mattered. When you zoom out, all of those stories start to feel like they're part of the same soft thread. Small comforts, quiet kindness, tiny acts of justice that don't need a big speech or dramatic music, just someone deciding, hey, I can make this a little better. It's not the explosive movie-style revenge. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served in the smallest, safest way. A landlord finally following the rules. A rude neighbor realizing that other people's sleep matters. A stranger on a bus choosing to be gentle instead of annoyed. And now, as we ease into the wind down, you don't have to hold on to any of the details. You don't need to remember who sat where, or what the note in the library said, or exactly how the pancakes were stacked. Let all of that blur at the edges. The names, the places, The little twists in each story can melt together like dreams that start clear and then drift into soft colors. Your mind can keep only what it wants and let the rest wash away. If you catch yourself trying to replay a story, that's okay. Just notice it, like you're watching the Minecraft sky slowly change and then gently set it down. You're not studying for a test here. You're just letting your brain have something calm and predictable to follow until it's ready to let go. These stories are background music now, a quiet little hum in the dark to help you drift off to sleep. And speaking of background, the Minecraft world is staying peaceful. No sudden creeper explosions, no surprise skeletons, no jumpy sounds, just soft footsteps, distant ambient music, maybe the faint echo of water or wind through caves far away from our cozy village. It's safe to close your eyes if you haven't already. Nothing important is going to happen on screen that you need to see. The world will just keep breathing slowly with you. If you want, imagine yourself inside this village we've been building together. You're walking along the path, the glow from the lanterns pooling in little circles on the ground. The houses are simple and comfortable, their windows warm against the night. You can hear that gentle Minecraft night music in the distance. Not a party, not chaos, just a calm, familiar tune. You pass the tiny library we built, maybe with a secret note tucked behind one of the shelves just for you. You walk by the small fenced yard where a blocky dog is already curled up, safe and content. You can almost smell pancakes drifting from one of the apartments, even though you know it's just pixels and imagination. The only vibrations you feel are the soft ones in your chest as your breathing evens out. Up ahead, your little in-game home is waiting. The door swings open with that quiet click, and inside everything is exactly where it should be. Bed in the corner, chest by the wall, maybe a flower in a pot on the windowsill. You don't have to craft anything else, or mine anything, or plan any clever revenge. All that's done for tonight. All that's left is the short walk across the floorboards to your bed. In a moment, we'll settle you there, pull the covers up in this pixel-perfect room, and let the rest of the world fade to black, both on screen and behind your eyes. Outro. Soft goodnights and gentle next time whispers. So let's go ahead and take that little walk together now. From the crafting table across the quiet wooden floor of this tiny apartment we've built, over to the soft, blocky bed waiting in the corner. Each step is slow, unhurried, like your thoughts finally deciding they don't have to rush around this cozy little world anymore. As you settle in, I just want to say thank you for spending your evening or your night here with me. Whether you're still awake, eyes half focused on the screen, or you're already blinking slower and slower, I'm really glad you chose this corner of the internet to help you drift off to sleep. There are a lot of loud places you could be right now, a lot of bright, noisy party vibes and stressful stories, and instead you're here, listening to soft footsteps and quiet revenge from a safe distance. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and also, good night from the channel. If you've made it this far, you've earned that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without having to lift a finger. You just got to lie there, listen, and let other people do all the planning, documenting, and poetic payback while you stayed comfortable under your own blanket in the real world. If this video helped you even a little, you might want to gently tuck it into a sleep playlist for later. No pressure at all. Just a quiet suggestion, like setting a glass of water on your nightstand in case you wake up thirsty. That way, on another restless night, when the vibrations of the day are still buzzing in your chest, you can just tap that playlist and drop back into these cozy stories and slow Minecraft builds without thinking too hard. You can also come back on the nights when you don't need full-on sleep help, but you just want some company while you tidy your room, or wind down after a long shift, or let your brain cool off from all the bright screens and busy notifications. I'll be here, wandering around these little paths, placing lanterns, listening to the soft in-game music and the occasional cow in the distance like it's our shared white noise machine. And if you like this mix of calm gameplay and quiet justice, there will be more. More peaceful Minecraft builds in survival and creative, more cozy Reddit stories with low drama and high satisfaction, more safe late night ambience where the worst thing that happens is a creeper politely exploding far away from your base. I know. Revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but somehow that gentle click of everything falling into place can make it easier to let go of your own worries for the night. Before we really say goodnight, let's take one last deep, unhurried breath together. In through your nose, nice and slow. Feel your chest rise, your shoulders maybe lifting just a little, and then out through your mouth, even slower, like you're blowing out the candles at the end of a quiet party. As you breathe out, let your jaw loosen, your forehead smooth out, your hands get heavy where they're resting. Right now, there is absolutely nothing you need to do. No emails to answer, no messages to draft, no clever revenge to plan. All the problems from today can wait patiently outside the door of this tiny Minecraft apartment. Inside, it's just you, the soft glow from the window, and the gentle background sounds keeping you company while you drift. In a moment, I'm going to stop talking and let the world on screen keep moving without me. You'll still hear the music, the faint click of blocks, the distant cave echoes and footsteps on grass, all looping slowly like a lullaby, made of pixels and soft vibrations. You can stay and watch the sky change, or you can let your eyes close and just listen as everything blurs into comfortable noise. If you want to see what we build next time, or hear more stories that untangle messy situations in the most satisfying ways, you can always subscribe or just remember to swing back by when the night feels a little too loud. But not right now. Right now, the only thing on your to-do list is rest. So I'll leave you here, tucked into this tiny bed in our blocky little room, while the camera drifts to the window and the world outside keeps breathing. Let the sounds carry you. Let your thoughts slow down. I'll see you in the next one. Sleep well.